Good afternoon. Welcome to the Committee on Education. Today is Wednesday, January 28th. We are in room 229 and it's 1:03 p.m. Just a note that all of our live stream Senate Standing Committee meetings are available on the Senate YouTube channel. In case you want to rewatch this and you have insomnia and you want to, make yourself go to sleep, you can rewatch our hearings. With that, I just want to say that today's hearing, we're focusing on how the University of Hawaii and Department of Education and others are working together and are using public resources to educate our local students and address workforce shortages across our state. The legislature has invested substantial public funds in both systems from K through 12 through higher education and through operating budgets, tuition support, scholarships, and waivers. These investments must be aligned, they must be intentional and accountable with a clear focus on outcomes that benefit Hawaii's community and our economy. This committee is interested not only in where the money is going, but how our students are being prepared. Addressing workforce needs requires instructional strategies that move beyond traditional lecture-based models and instead promote student engagement, creativity, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills for today's and tomorrow's workforce. Strong coordination between DOE and UH is critical to ensuring students are supported along the entire pipeline from classrooms to credentials to careers. And that coordination should be reflected in spending decisions, academic pathways, and measurable results. And the Senate, in fact, believes that, and which is why now we have one committee, education, and we're not splitting it up. So today's discussion is about accountability, transparency, and alignment. And we look forward to hearing how DOE and UH are working together to ensure public dollars are educating local students, strengthening our workforce, and producing outcomes that truly serve Hawaii. And with that, I want to introduce our committee members. On my left, Vice Chair of the committee, Senator Kidani. To my right, Senator Hashimoto from Maui. And further right is Senator DeCourt from the Waianae Coast. So we're starting off with Teacher Education Coordinating Committee, TECC. So we have Carrie Tom, Nathan Murata, and others here too. You want to come up? And can you just give a really brief for the public that might be watching about what is TECC and your mission? Just briefly.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Nathan Murata, Dean, College of Education, UH Manoa. The Teacher Education Coordinating Committee, it was established in 1965 under a specific statute here, Hawaii Revised Statute. And so for nearly 60 years, we've been an advisory committee charged with identifying, studying, and making recommendations on matters of education that are common interest to the department and to the education preparation programs across the state of Hawaii. And we collaborate and are working closely with all the teacher preparation programs. That includes both the public, private, and alternate certification programs that are here. And we all work very closely with the Department of Education in some advisory capacity.
And how many members are on this committee?
The TEC comprises of approximately 20 somewhat individuals.
Okay, and they span from public education,
Private
colleges,
institutions, alternative certification programs, HSTA is also represented, Hawaii P20 is also represented, and some invited guests, depending on what the agenda items are.
Okay, what would you say has been the accomplishments and the results since the inception in 1965? I mean, it seems like this entity has been around for a long time.
Yes, it
And to
has.
be honest, a lot of people don't, and my colleagues was not aware of
Yes.
TECC. So that kind of worries me that, it's been around for so long, yet you guys seem to be kind of really low-key.
Yes,
Do you want me to talk about the plan? You want me to talk about the plan a little bit?
you can.
Yeah, I can share. So Carrie Tom from the Department of Education, Office of Talent Management. I help facilitate the conversations with TECC, as well as I'm the superintendent designee if he can't attend the meetings. But TECC has a 5-year strategic plan. So we have 3 objectives, basically, which is building teacher capacity, increasing in-service teacher satisfaction, and competitive compensation incentives. Those are the 3 main things in the strategic plan for TECC.
So basically, the strategic plan covers what? Because you've talked about teacher capacity compensation, but I don't hear anything about teaching students and the way we're delivering them.
Yeah, I think the TECC is more of a macro synergistic kind of entity where it encompasses everyone. So all the procedures and policies from a global, more macro perspective is being introduced. And then it's the EPP's educator preparation programs, such as Manoa and all the 14 other entities that are eligible to provide teacher training here in the state of Hawaii, will then develop their own curriculum that will do the actual teacher educator training.
So have you folks been monitoring whether or not your strategic plan or whether or not your recommendations that come out? And that's another thing I'm going to ask. What are some of the things that have come up that have been implemented? Do you folks keep track of that and how effective it's
So we have some
been?
specific areas, like for building capacity, we look at early pathways and recruitment, articulation agreements in the university system, alternative pathways from traditional, program support and retention are some of the capacity builders that we're kind of looking at.
Yeah, but you're looking at it, but what have we got? I mean, and this 5-year strategic plan, you guys been in existence, and maybe not the same people, but it's been there for since 1965.
Long time, yeah.
Right? So every 5 years you have a new strategic plan, or you just keep building on the 5-year strategic plan and move it up year after year?
Yeah, well, when I came in as dean 8 years ago, we started to, along with the Christina Kishimoto at that time, to create this strategic plan in order to have all the EPPs sort of have a say and work closely with the department, and so that we're unified in preparation and at least having all the necessary information to develop our programs. So then we actually came up with 5 objectives earlier, and we scaled it down to these current 3 objectives that we find to be realistic, impactful. And there are certain outcomes that we do have that TECC was part of, some recommendations that the department has taken on to as far as teacher preparation programs. So.
And what about the Board of Education? Do you guys
Board of Education.
communicate with them, advise them of what you folks are doing? What's the plan? I mean, is there any kind of dovetailing, coordination?
I don't know, not so much with the
Not
board.
with the Board of Education. Well, so because the entity is made up of all the EPPs and the Department of Education, we usually take that information back and then we go back to our respective agencies and work on the various issues that we talk about, whether it's pathways, improvement, the teacher ed program. That's generally how it kind of works from TECC. We go back and then we talk to our fellow agencies. So for example, some of the things that we've been trying to work on is, I think for TECC, it's about getting interest for people to become teachers, especially our young people, right? We're trying to figure out how we can attract our young people to become teachers, and then mid-career changers. Those are some of the populations we're kind of looking at. And so we kind of go back, and that's the biggest conversation we've been having now. How can we partner together to build that pipeline? Because recruitment, has been better because we've kind of streamlined our processes, but it's generating that interest. So some of the recruitment team that I oversee, we've been going out, let's say, into elementary, secondary, middle schools to start having these conversations with kids. And, with teacher pathway academies within the high schools. So we've been working on things like that.
So have you folks been talking about how we move from lecture-based teaching to student-centered learning?
I mean, in higher ed, in the education preparation programs?
Yeah,
Well,
throughout.
at least I can only speak to Manoa.
Okay, but it's not just at higher ed.
Oh.
But in order for higher ed to implement this, the public schools have to embrace it as well, right? So you cannot be putting out teachers who have this new way of teaching, but they go into the traditional way of teaching when they get out. So it is a connection, which is why we're here. I don't think that kind of collaboration has been happening, yet we have you, TECC, which you have both entities and others that can do that. So, that's why I raised this concern.
Well, I know that at the TECC level, every year the chairperson alternates. So this year I'm chairing the TECC. Next year is the superintendent.
Now,
So
do you folks actually are in the meetings, or you have your representatives?
Oh, I'm actually at the meetings.
And
Yes.
the superintendent is at the meeting?
When he's able to, he attends the meetings.
Okay, what does that mean? How often is that?
Depends on what his schedule is, but I'm usually the designee that works with TECC.
Members, you have questions?
Yeah, how comparable is your strategic plan to Department of Ed's strategic plan? How much of your plan do they incorporate in the overall?
Well, the two plans are a little bit separate because we're dealing with, education providers.
Both public
Yeah.
and private.
That's right.
So I know for us, we try to align it with at least our preparation programs with regard to recruitment, retention, accessibility to get to all the neighbor islands.
Yeah,
And all that.
and for us, it aligns with because we're trying to fill the vacancies in the Department of Education. So we're trying to figure out how do we build those pipelines with our EPP partners. So like I mentioned previously, we are able to recruit and fill the vacancies, but when we look at there's a churn there, but we're trying to figure out how, so our mission is really to work with them, like I said, about generating interest in our young folks. So that's been the newest program. How do we kind of figure that out? Because it's, local grown has been our focus lately.
Yeah, so according to your report, it seems like you folks have been able to increase the teacher positions. However, a report had come out in December saying that 48% of the teachers in the classroom were not licensed. So how does that play into your strategic plan? Because if we're just filling seats for the sake of filling seats and then coming to the ledge, checking the box and making it look pretty, but when we start getting into the root and weeds of things, it's like, what are we really giving our kids here? We're giving them quality, or we're just putting people in a room for the sake of coming back to the ledge during session and saying, hey, we checked off the box, where really it's not quality.
Well, I think, again, speaking only for Manoa, I think we are delivering an excellent product. Obviously, we graduate anywhere from 250 to 300 a year at Manoa, and that clearly does not suffice to fill all the vacancies. And so I know the department has gone through past couple of years, streamlined their application and hiring processes, whereby now, where in the past you've heard of maybe 1,000 vacancies, now I think they're down to about 100, whereby teachers now, our graduates, can actually access the schools directly and apply almost directly at the schools to find where these positions are. So in that sense, yes, we are very much in tune with that. However, just if you do the math, the numbers of candidates that the state produces, including private, public alternatives, does not meet obviously the totality of what's vacant.
Yeah, so I'm just going to be bringing it back to my point, which is the teachers that are in the classroom, 48% of them are not licensed.
Correct.
So why do we keep lowering the standards in the classroom just to fill for the classroom's sake? Do you think that our students deserve teachers that are not licensed?
I mean, teacher quality is really important. So where we dovetail is that, so it's kind of like a continuum where we have licensed folks and we have these emergency hires. What we're finding is when we've done surveys is that actually a lot of these are people who are older. So they're not going into the system as young folks, right? They're actually, a lot of them are mid-career changers. So in TCC, we're actually trying to figure out like, how can we work and support these people who are actually showing interest? So they might have been waitresses or other careers and they're switching to be teachers, but they don't have the certification. So that's also a key area that we're trying to work with, is providing more support for these people so they can become licensed.
Okay, because just in my opinion, that is unacceptable to have teachers that are not licensed teaching our kids and in our classroom. So a part of your 5-year strategic plan is also increasing compensation and incentives. Now, I understand that your $10,000 a year bonus is not really an incentive for people to sign up for the jobs. So are you working on compensation that is a little bit more able for people to afford the cost of living here?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think we try to advocate every year for salaries and the benefit packages. And I think the differentials for like hard to fill areas, special education, I think that's a good start.
So when you advocate for the increase of compensation, where is there a wall? Where does it stop? So you folks advocate?
At us. It stops at us. Unfortunately.
We'll try harder.
Okay, we'll try harder.
We don't give them the money. Senator Kidani?
Thank you. Basically, she asked some of the questions I had, but with the education preparation program, the EP, to hire and train more teachers. But what is our retention rate? I mean, what percentage? Maybe not the ones that are just coming in, but what percentage of teachers are we losing each year? So maybe we need to beef up the program, or beef up the salary. I don't know what it is. But
The retention rate has been about a little above 50%.
50% of the new
Of the
teachers?
workforce over 5 years.
Retention.
Yeah.
But I can, again, speaking only on behalf of Manoa, our retention rate on our own data, we have a 90% retention rate at 5 years and beyond for our graduates that are currently still employed in the department. So I think Carrie's referring to just the overall, with all the EPPs and all the alternative certification programs. So we're very proud of that data that we have. But yes, it is, the retention issue is also our so we kind of look at it from recruitment and retention kind of go hand in hand. You can recruit ad nauseum, but if they keep leaving, I mean, you're still at a zero balance. So we're trying to do the recruiting, but we're also trying to address the retention issue through various means such as wage compensation, improving perhaps maybe working conditions, things of that nature. So
have you folks, all these years, kind of figure out why we can't retain? I mean, I know it's not one thing, but there's a lot of things going on that people, I mean, some of it is they didn't sign up for some of their duties, right? That they didn't sign up to be a nurse's aide, they didn't sign up to give medication and do stuff like that in the classroom. I mean, do we know why we can't retain? I mean, we can't just keep throwing money at it if maybe money's not the only thing. If it's, teachers' responsibilities and the workplace environment, then what have you guys
So I'll
come
tell
up
you
with?
that our separation data shows that the majority, when you look at the data, are actually leaving out of the state. So in terms of when we check annually, they're just leaving. Now, for what reason it is, but that's the aggregate reason.
But do you guys ask them for what reason? Is it for cost of living?
Transient military is a large one. Yeah. Sometimes they mention affordability, but generally the roll-up is like they're leaving. That's been the general reason.
So I think that the bottom line is, right, TECC is you're supposed to be figuring out a pipeline, right? So your bottom line problem is you just have too many teachers leaving and not enough people in the pipeline coming in. And I think, Dean Murata knows how much I've been trying to work on this issue, but I think what frustrates me a little bit is you talk about mid-career people, that's fine. What I've been saying, what you have to do, and I don't know what the DOE is doing, is you have to get the young folks to go, right? You have to get the conversions right out of high school. How do you convince them to become teachers? And that's why, but the DOE needs to have a concerted effort to figure out how do you make that happen? Like we talk about pathways, right? So we go to, on Maui, we try to figure out one principal, okay, one principal wants to do a pathway, we go to another school, they say no. Why are you guys allowing them to say no? You tell them, if we as a department want to have, we need a robust pipeline, right? And so I think that the DOE in itself needs to help yourself to figure out how do you create that pipeline. You are the best, system to figure out how do you get these young people to become teachers. But then it goes to UH, right? Because so UH has to then figure out how do we convert these people? How do we make it easy to get that teaching degree? Right? Right now, it's not easy. That's why I've been harping on the College of Ed to make that conversion easier, right? From freshman year, right out of high school, through your 4 years, it has to be seamless, and it's not seamless right now. But the question is what is DOE doing? Like, you have early college, you have Hawaii Promise. What are you using out of those programs to recruit teachers? But it doesn't seem like it's a priority. And I get it. I support the J1 program. But let's be honest, the J1 program is a Band-Aid, right? That is supposed to buy us time, but then TECC is then supposed to come in and figure out, okay, what is the longer term strategy while we have this Band-Aid in place? And so when I read this report, I get really concerned that I'm not seeing that synergy or that strategy, right? In fact, what I'm reading is that you closed down one of your programs and you left 50 teachers in limbo, right? Potential teachers in limbo, and that really concerned me. Right? Why are we adding barriers when I think the whole purpose of TECC is to close those barriers and gaps? So I don't think people are taking this seriously, right? I have another report that I had to put a bill to get a request of the report on establishing K-12 expanded teaching cohort programs in each county. And I'm looking at the data with my staff today and I'm appalled. Like, this is 24-25. And according to the enrollment, at least at Manoa, it's only 214 or 274, I'm sorry. And for Maui, it said we only have 41 enrolled in the College of Ed, 24-25. And it's only 9 Bachelors of Ed teachers, right? And so I'm like, and then on Oahu, it's only 151. And so if you look at the data speaks for itself that we should be really, really concerned that, yes, you need the pipeline in, but what barriers are we breaking down to make sure that we have a robust pipeline?
Yeah, I would agree that attracting young folks into the profession.
Yeah, but what did you guys do over the last 3 years? Because I requested this in 2022. What have we done since 2022?
Yeah, there are a lot of different, so because he's made up of a bunch of folks, like HSB is pursuing educators
No, but
rising.
is the DOE, are you not concerned about
We are.
your teacher workforce?
We are.
But I don't see that concern happening. Right, I guess you do the J1s, but what else are you guys doing? Like, this is serious. If you look at the numbers.
So I guess maybe the question should be more directly is, when you do exit interviews, what is the top 5 reasons why teachers leave? You said transient, but what else? Is it salary?
I could get that information
Yeah,
for you
thank
about
you.
the lower level breakdown.
But I think what the question is what is the strategy moving forward? And I don't know, you guys are here, but I don't hear what the strategy is.
So again, we get back to the basic as to how this committee, in the number of years that they've been there, is working together. And, are you talking with the Board of Education? Are they involved? Just because they don't have a member on this doesn't mean that there's not policies that need to be looked at for public schools as well. And so, how have the activities listed in the 2023-24 and then the 24-25 reports impact the number of state-approved teachers program students getting into education as a career? What's been the impact and how have they influenced that?
I think, based on the report, is that Act 141 report? Again, I can't speak for everyone, but, our data at Manoa over the past couple of years has been somewhat stable and sometimes even going in a lower trajectory than I care to admit. But what we are currently working on too, with the help of others in the UH system, is a much more focused, to get to Senator Hashimoto's point about seamlessness and transitions from our community colleges to the 4 years. And we've made significant progress on 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 2+2 articulation agreements, whereby we should have a seamless process of getting students from the community colleges over into teacher pathways without any minimal disruptions and barriers.
But if university is only producing 200 to 300 students, and the rest of the marketplace is putting out the students, it's still not enough. So
No,
what?
correct.
So what do we do? We know it's not enough. So what are we doing about it? What are you
Well-
guys in the committee doing about it?
Yeah, so I mean, we really are having those discussions, I mean, even recently.
Okay, but there's discussions and discussions and discussions since 1965. So after a while, we gotta start acting and implementing and not just planning and discussing. Right? I mean, where is the bold actions? Let me ask DOE this question. So you folks made a statement, or there's been a statement that said DOE processed 11,000 teacher applications to fill the usual 1,000 vacancies with highly qualified teachers. So where did the 11,000 applications originate from?
So because we had a sort of a pool-based system, which was the positions were, you apply for a position, right, and before you would just be sent out anywhere, it went position specific. So now all the positions by each school is advertised that way. When we did that, the aggregate amount that we would receive, it increased, like from 3,000, it went to 11,000. So it's just an aggregate number of how many applications went in. And of course, yes, it impacted our vacancies positively, where we would be maybe having a standing, 600 after school started, it's maybe down to below 100 now. So it's just this.
You have below 100 vacancies. That's not true, right? The report that was shown to us was more than that, vacancies.
Well, when we talk about vacancies, these are what schools are posting. So currently, like today, they had like 74 current active requisitions in terms of posting teacher jobs.
How many are local applicants or returning to Hawaii applicants of that 11,000?
We could provide that data. We would have to look at that.
Why did only 45 candidates in Hawaii attend the teacher career fair if the goal is to attract and build teacher career pathways?
So when it mentions about the career fair and lowering of numbers, it's because of the effectiveness of the applicant tracking system. So before, what happens is people are actually being able to apply to those jobs specifically. So they actually have a job prior to needing to go to the job fair.
What is the status of the teacher apprentice program and how it's impacted teacher recruitment?
So the teacher apprenticeship program is, I think it's going through its consult and confer process.
So you have no data from the,
Yeah, I mean, the
Apprenticeship
apprenticeship program
program.
isn't active
Hasn't
right now.
started.
Hasn't started.
So it's supposed to impact recruitment, right? It's supposed to.
Yes. Yeah.
And what's the goal, though?
Well, it's a terrific pathway in terms of it provides an opportunity for people to become teachers and the partially financially
Right,
support.
but as far as actually recruiting them, actually getting them to.
Well, I think the current program that's a pilot, I think with the Department of Labor, there's a specific number of funds that's been earmarked. So those funds will be used to pay for the salaries and tuition, I believe.
Yeah.
So I think depending on the funding that's available, the candidates will be able to benefit from getting their tuition covered plus some salary increases as part of the apprenticeship program until the time they graduate. So there should be minimal to zero cost to the candidates themselves.
Okay, so do you folks feel that TECC has been effective, have been successful, have been impactful, and is worth going on? After 65 years or beyond 65, since 1965, or are we just spinning our wheels with another entity
Well,
meeting?
I think to answer the question, I think I can only speak for the past 8 years. But I think the TECC, I think, is a good committee because it brings in not only the UH system program, but it brings in the privates, the alternate cert programs, that really gets to see the process. And so everyone, all 14 of us that are involved in teacher preparation here in the state of Hawaii, gets to hear and see what the department is requiring, gets to see what the charter schools are requiring. And that, I think, is a healthy thing. So then that way our candidates may have choices in selecting potential programs. So I see it as a benefit. This also gives myself and the superintendent an opportunity to engage bi-monthly to talk about priorities for the department and my unit so that we can stay aligned.
Yeah,
So
but
I personally think it's a good thing.
nothing about what you just said actually ended in real results. It was seeing, it was talking, it was meeting, it was looking, it was observing, it was viewing, but nothing hiring, stabilizing, retention, filling vacancies. So again, the question is TECC and what you folks were put in place for, do you feel confidently that that has been accomplished and continuing to be accomplished? Because it seems like you guys are not even operational at this point.
Well, I think I would suggest that I think there are things that we discuss and we try to implement. There are some outcomes and deliverables that we try to obtain every year. I know we were instrumental in helping the department trigger the sheltered instruction, and I know some other things, but there's a lot more we could have done, but there are the conversations surrounding what we're doing and what the requirements are, at least from a synergy standpoint, everyone gets to hear exactly, and we can't control what the privates alternative cert programs do. But I think for us, I feel pretty good about, having that, just the constant dialogue and conversations between the superintendent and the Manoa campus, at least.
Yeah, what's valuable, I mean, in the conversations, like I mentioned, about going from like this broad-based recruiting method, maybe about 5 years ago, to a position-specific, was a really a big game changer for us in terms of recruitment. But through the conversations with the TECC, I mean, it used to be kind of operational, where it'd be like, how do my people apply? They can't even see the positions. So in terms of that kind of feedback, we were making some changes, like in terms of like recruitment and how we were doing things.
So as example, through your career fairs, you folks attracted 307 schools, but within that, 45 candidates were received. That doesn't seem very effective to me. 307 schools with 45 candidates.
Yeah, so what I had mentioned is that in the recent job fairs, because candidates could see the positions early on, they didn't attend the job fair. And that's our analysis of it.
So you guys are having these fairs and no one is showing up?
Well,
Have you guys pivoted your approach then? How long did you realize that these career fairs were not working? When it hit the 200 mark?
no, so the career fairs we maintained, it was just that when the transition kind of occurred, we could see it. I mean, as soon as it went to position-specific recruiting, we saw that the job fairs, right, if they had an offer, they just didn't attend. And that's when it kind of occurred, maybe about a year ago. The system's been running about a year and a half.
What would you say is your most effective recruiting process right now? Your number one.
So from my perspective, it's always been this position-specific recruiting, so people could see where the vacancies are. That seemed to be one of the best things. We also have like a geo map feature, so now you can kind of hover and see where the positions were, because a lot of times people just didn't know, like, if the position's here, this is where it looks like, either, on an outer island or on Oahu, at least from the recruitment side.
When was that implemented?
It's been about 2 years now.
How many have you folks hired from that?
Well, okay, so, we have to fill about 1,000 vacancies even to this day, so we fill most of them. But like we had the conversation earlier, right? They could be mid-career changes, emergency hires, et cetera. So it generally generated a lot of interest, but the items we talked about perhaps need more work on.
So what would be your definition of success then?
So I'm speaking from the recruiting standpoint, it was such a success that we actually could fill these vacancies. But as you guys have pointed out, as I mentioned, there's some issues around quality or the types of teachers that are going in.
So I guess what the question is what is your strategy moving towards? Like, as you meet, what is the biggest issue that you're trying to overcome right now? Is it bringing that high quality teacher in every single classroom, or is it just to fill the classroom? I don't know. You gotta kind of tell us, because I think then it gives us a better idea of where we're trying to go in the teacher recruitment side, right?
I think it's definitely teacher quality. We've had that conversation. We had an accreditation meeting with the TECC recently, and that was definitely the topic.
Okay, so then what are the tactics you're using to increase quality, right?
That's true. I mean,
So,
I would agree.
yeah, you discussed it, but what's the result?
So that conversation was very new as of like last month. In terms of,
Do you meet
Like,
monthly? You guys meet
well,
monthly
yeah,
or
we do meet
quarterly?
monthly.
Monthly.
But it was an excellent meeting in terms of, I mean, if you're asking about the conversations, there definitely was around like teacher quality. How do we give access for especially remote and outer island areas to get access to teacher ed prep programs? That was another topic that was brought up heavily.
Only last month?
Oh, no.
No, I wouldn't say that, but it's one of the key issues that had come up during that particular meeting. I mean, it's come up before, but
It's come up many
But
times.
if you know that's the issue, it should be a standing agenda item at every meeting. And what is the progress that we're making, right? Because I just go back to the pipeline. Yes, you can fill every seat, but if it's not what the definition of what the strategy is supposed to be, then I don't know if the mission is quite there, right?
yeah, so alternative pathways, programs from other EVPs are also being considered to provide that access and things of that nature.
Okay, well, I think that's at the next meeting, you should be very clear with everybody. What is their goal here, right, of what we're trying to accomplish? My thing is that the pipeline just got to be robust. I think that clearly has to be what we got to focus on, right? What is the DOE bringing to the table? What can the College of Ed, not only at Manoa, but West Oahu, what is Hilo bringing to the table, right? Like what is the entire university system, including the CCs, what are they bringing to the table to make this happen? And if we don't see the number of people, we got to change, we got to pivot, right? Because I asked on Maui, are you guys interviewing all the PALS people who run the county summer program? And they're like, what? We don't talk to each other. I'm like, what do you mean? That's your pipeline right there, but nobody's talking to them, right? And so if you have a problem with the pipeline, you cannot just do the same thing. You gotta think of other things, right? I think it's that important that we want you to succeed. It's not like we're here to come and scold you. We want you to succeed and make sure that you're going into the right direction.
But even if we get the pipeline, you're only putting out 200 to 300 students max, and that's still not going to be enough, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I mean, we do have capacity. We could certainly increase. We accept every qualified candidate to our programs. So again, it goes, to what Carrie was talking about earlier, is trying to drum up that interest pipeline thing. So, we do have programs at Manoa, like, for example, Ed Rising's program, where we are actually in the high schools. They're coming to campus in the next month to generate teaching as an interest profession. So we are doing little things to add to our repertoire of recruiting efforts and working closely with the department. But again, we've been averaging 250, 300 a year pretty steadily. So clearly that's not enough to reduce to a point where we got highly qualified people in all of our classrooms. So that is the goal. That is the target. That's the standard. And getting there is taking us a little bit longer, but we're moving toward that direction.
What is your opinion of a qualified teacher?
Well, geez.
A quality teacher, let me say that.
Well, I think, I can sum it up in 2 words, probably. Student success. Student success with regard to academic.
so if the
Emotional.
child is reading at a 3rd grade level at high school, that's not success, right?
No, I mean, I'm talking
Yeah.
broader, like successes.
Right.
Meeting benchmarks, meeting grade level criterion. I just kind of encapsulated everything into.
So
student
would you
needs.
agree that a part of the teacher quality
Yes.
is being licensed?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. Would you
Definitely.
agree that a part of the teacher quality would even possibly be degreed, have experience in the DOE system?
Or just
has-
having teaching experience, period, yes.
Yes,
Very valuable, yes.
yes, okay. I think we're gonna actually need to get some real data from you folks with a real strategic plan on what that's looking like, because if you just look at the reports, to me, it looks like you guys are just checking the box. And that's difficult because student success is very subjective. Success in what? Working at McDonald's, being a doctor, working in the military. What success is very subjective, but we can't expect success from our students if we don't expect success from our teachers. And we can't expect success from our teachers if we're not holding them to a standard. And it doesn't sound like you folks are pursuing this in an aggressive way, and you don't even have DOE to come behind you to match that up. Because we have teachers in my district that are still in a position where they are trying to go through the process to become the accredited teachers, and they've been waiting for 3 years. So I feel like there's a mark here that's being missed. Meanwhile, kids are graduating in my district with 4th grade reading level, okay? 4th grade reading level is so offensive and insulting to any parent. And if you guys have kids, you guys should be insulted that this is what's happening on our watch, and it's happening in real time. And the longer it takes you guys to figure it out, the more our kids suffer, the more our parents suffer, and our community suffers. So I'm not sure if there's just an apathetic approach to this, but the lack of aggressive effort to have quality teachers in there is so disappointing, because I look at it as continual unemployment happening as soon as our kids graduate. And they wonder why they can't just get a basic job, because they don't have the basic soft skills or even computer skills for that matter. So I would just like to say that, Chair. Thank you.
And that takes me back to one of my original questions is that how are students being prepared? You know, we still, teaching is an industrial age, and we're not anymore. So we really need to address that, and that doesn't seem like something that the TECC has been addressing at all, right?
No, because it's actually the responsibility of the teacher educator preparation program. So the TECC would not dictate or mandate anything with respect to how a teacher preparation program will deliver their program.
Well,
That's
it's
an
not-
accreditation
It's
issue.
not so much mandating, but as to the philosophy as to, do we continue to teach as an industrial nation versus teaching, transforming the way we work with students? Also, that affects the novice teacher coming in. The novice teacher is standing first day in front of a class of 25 students with no reinforcement, nobody to help her, nobody to mentor her in the classroom while they're in the classroom, versus transforming across the country where you're having team teaching and other forms where there's more than one teacher in the classroom. And that's how you support the new teachers, and then they don't feel so all alone. And it's not like their first day of school is like their last day of school, being in front of the classroom by themselves. So, I mean, those are some of the things too about why teachers leaving within 5 years. It's the younger ones or the newcomers that probably may not, while they're getting the kind of education at the college level, once they get into the classroom and once they're a teacher, they may not feel that they're having a lot of support while they're in the classroom. They may be going to a lot of training, but right there in the classroom. So I think that's something that we would like to see. You have an impressive group of people on this committee, right?
Yes.
You have Brigham Young University.
Yes.
Right? Chaminade University.
Yes,
Hawaii Pacific University. I teach Hawaii.
yes,
Kaho'i Iwai.
yes,
Kahua Waialoa Indigenous Teacher Education. Leeward Community College, Teach Away, Teach for America, University of Hawaii Hilo, University of Hawaii Manoa, University of Hawaii West Oahu, and other entities invited to participate, Hawaii P20, Hawaii State Teachers Association, Hawaii Teachers Standard Board, UH Manoa, In Peace. Of course, I don't see BOE on here. But, and you folks meet monthly. I'm not sure with this many people what exactly are coming out as a result and how many actually show up. And then you said it's good because then you get to talk with the superintendent, right? You folks get to.
Well, I think everyone there gets to, gets firsthand information about what's happening in the department, what's happening accreditation-wise.
Yeah, but you don't have to wait for the meeting to
Oh, no,
to
not
collaborate,
necessarily.
right? Because a lot of it, at the end of the day, while all of these people are great to be in one group, that DOE and the University of Hawaii should be in close
Yes, yes,
communication
Yes.
on a regular basis.
Yes, and
right?
we are.
And dovetailing as to what we're doing. If there's other questions, let me just ask this final question. You know, the statute indicates that the committee may include recommendations for legislative consideration. What has TECC discussed that would support the 3 strategic plan objectives that could be submitted for ideas for the legislative action? Have you folks submitted anything?
no, but we do invite legislatures to our TECC meetings
Oh,
to share.
Who have you invited?
Mostly the education folks. Next month, we have Representative Garrett coming
Okay.
to talk to us about priorities. In the case, and
You ever had Senator Kidani? No?
we definitely invite, all the education folks, so.
There's
to come.
education folks on here. Any of us-
Committees, members.
Anybody got invited recently?
Can't
I know
recall who.
I know we're busy and I know it's difficult.
Yeah.
So, I mean, other than that, what kind of bills or what kind of legislation have you folks felt that you might need to support what you're doing
How often do we meet?
once a month?
Once a month.
Just once a month, and is it, what time? What day of the week,
Usually,
what time?
usually it's
Second Wednesday.
second Wednesday of the month at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, when we're in hearings, so that's
Yeah.
probably why we don't go
Yeah.
if you've invited us.
There's been conflicts. I think Senator Kadani, your office responded saying that you're not available because of conflict.
Well, it's hard if you don't even know you exist, though. It's hard
Yeah.
for legislators when they don't even know.
No,
that
that's true. I mean,
TECC. I've been around a
so
long
that-
time, and
yeah.
I've only recently learned about you guys.
yeah,
So-
it's been there since 1965. So.
Yeah, I don't know if that's my,
Some of us weren't even born yet.
speak
I
for
was,
yourself.
I was, so, in a way.
But, yeah, but it's not so much what we're gonna tell you, it's what it is that you think you need as far as any kind of legislation. I'm not encouraging you to just come up with a measure just to come
No.
up with one, but I'm just saying that, is there, things
In the
that,
past few years, we've been trying to come up with deliverables, outcomes that we can share with not only with the EPPs, but with everyone. And it's been a conversation, and we're still trying to get to a space where, we feel comfortable with coming up with legislative. We've never done it, at least not during my tenure here. But something that we can seriously consider as a governing body, as an entity for the state that oversees a lot of these things. I'd be happy to see if we could move legislation. But I also realize too that, we've got all the private sectors there. We've got everyone there. So want to be mindful of everyone at the table, so.
right, I'm sure that they also need support and
Sure.
help in many ways as well.
Yep.
Right? So, okay, well, we're gonna, if I
Follow
have
up.
anything to say about this, we're gonna have you come back year after year to give us your report.
Okay.
And so to see what your successes, results, and so forth. So, you can take that back to your committee in your next month's meeting and really have a robust discussion about what it is that, that you can provide
Okay.
as far as results.
Sure.
Not just discussions, not just plans, but
Yep.
implementation and results.
Okay.
So you can get that?
Yep.
I mean, we need all the help we can get. And that's
Yes.
why we put all of these good folks on this committee, hopefully, so that we can get a nice comprehensive.
Yeah, we appreciate the help and the support on this, because we feel it's an important committee, and we realize the value. And we want
So
to make sure.
who administers this? DOE administers it, or is it UH that administers?
It's shared between DOE and.
Yeah, but I
Manoa.
mean, overall, who's the one point person for
Well,
TECC? Is it?
this year is me.
Okay, so you do all the scheduling of the meetings
Yeah,
and
so
everything.
prior to a meeting, we share agenda.
Is there a budget?
No,
No budget? Okay, just comes out of,
no.
okay. Members, if there are no other questions, thank you very much.
Okay.
We will move on to our second. Yeah, and please look at that whole, how teaching is being delivered to our students.
Yep, got it. Will do. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, as they leave, we're going to have and invite the University of Hawaii. Not that I can recall.
Good afternoon,
Good
Chair, Vice Chair,
afternoon.
and members of the committee. Luis Salaveria, Chief Financial Officer.
So members, we are talking about, in general, UH budget, the AI program, NIL, and CIP. I know we talked about some of this at the Ways and Means Committee, and we didn't really get in depth to it. So today, the committee were able to get more details. And I guess I will start it off, and just to ask, one of the things we talked about in Ways and Means was the $420 million tuition fund balance. And we understand that 175 million of this is on reserve for in emergencies, so forth, right?
That is correct.
So which leaves about 245 million. And I think the question back then, which I don't believe we had a real definitive answer, and I'm not sure that there'll be a completely definitive, but we want to know, what is the plan for these monies?
So, Chair, and thank you for the question. I think, as President Hansel has come in and has saw that there were significant balances that were accumulating within the tuition and fees special fund. And to provide a little bit of context, the tuition and fees special fund really started to increase during the COVID period, because there was a huge infusion of federal money that came in. There was a significant amount of increase in the investment returns of our balances at that period of time. So there was a quick increase in those balances going forward. And as it accumulated, I think with President Hansel coming in, the intention really is maintaining the board policy 16% reserve fund in order to address major shifts and changes in any type of revenue during the year, but to make strategic investments in student success going forward. So I think as you're going to hear from some of the people that will come up, whether it's the AI program or some of the student success programs that Hansel's administration wants to do it, there's a significant focus on using that to make strategic investments into the university in order to meet the outcomes that the public and especially the legislature want to see.
Okay, I think that's good, but can we get a little bit more details, just to say that it's going to go into those programs? Like, what are you talking about? What percentage of the monies are going to go where? So that would be helpful for us, I think, to see that.
Sure, and I think that, that conversation is definitely evolving, and we can definitely get back to you. A lot of it also is that we have to coordinate with the Board of Regents and get their buy-off on how we utilize that money within what we're calling the cash balances. But again, I think the big ones that are really coming up are some of the issues related to the utilization of AI in our institution.
What portion of these monies are going to be used for, say, reorganization and elevating people into vice president, associate vice president positions? This is something we've been seeing at the DOE level, where they've created more deputies, they've created more people on the upper echelon and the bureaucracy. And from what I might be hearing is that, the university is also looking at this in creating more vice presidents and more associate vice presidents. And where's the money going to come from? And do we want to, how does that elevation translate into student success?
That's a good question. And some of the reorganization that's happening right now at the system level is being done for people who are currently doing the job. So, whether it's.
Yeah, they're currently doing the job, and some of them aren't doing a good job. I'm sorry.
Yes.
That doesn't mean they should be elevated, even if they're doing a good job, elevated into a higher status. They're supposed to be doing a good job
And
for the salary they're making now.
so that is definitely an issue that I will take back in terms of as we discuss how this reorganization is happening. But a lot of it is to realign existing, I guess, responsibilities and accountabilities in order to create, the right individuals and creating accountable people within the organization that are going to be responsible for things like, especially workforce, which is one of the areas that the president is looking at implementing going forward. So, but creating those accountable individuals so that we can drive performance and that the legislature has somebody that okay, well, what did you do? What did you do with regards to workforce going forward? So we can definitely have that conversation on how, we can proceed together in this, but a lot of what we're trying to accomplish here is listening to the concerns that the legislature have brought forward to us over the past years.
Good to hear that. Let me ask one more, and then I'll go to Senator Kidani. And you folks all know in this room that I'm very frank. And so few years ago, when Lasner decided that he was going to give all of his vice presidents, his 5 vice presidents, or was it 4 vice presidents, a raise, and they got as much as $35,000 in one swoop, and it wasn't like the only raise. We didn't see any change, and they also have gotten more percentage increases, and they're even making more now. I haven't seen anything elevated in the delivery of service, in the delivery of impacting student success, or any of that. In fact, if anything, and I was going to point out as we get to CIP, there's a lot of problems that have taken place. So again, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get better service or better results.
I can't speak for what happened in the past. I think in my particular role as I'm coming in right now.
But it's people that's there now, you're saying. These are the people you want to elevate, and I'm just saying that.
And duly noted, and I will definitely bring that back. And I think the intention really is to drive accountability going forward. And I know that is something that has been instilled on me in my few weeks that I've been on the job so far. And I think that's going to be an expectation for everybody going forward.
Okay, when you say accountability, it's one thing to keep people accountable, but what is the consequences when you're not accountable, or when you don't fulfill what you're supposed to do? There seems to be no consequences.
I think that is something that we definitely need to discuss.
Okay.
I can't speak for the president.
But I hope that's something, because of all my years here, there's no consequence.
Understood, Chair.
Senator Kidani.
How many vacancies do you have?
We have approximately close to 1,000 vacancies.
How many have been vacant for more than 5 years?
For more than 4 years, I'm sorry?
5 years?
For more than 5 years, I think close to like 800 of them have been vacant for.
So why do you still need them?
Because they're taking the money from.
So a lot of those positions, and as you know, even in my prior capacity, cleaning up rosters is a very important part of what I would like to do too as well. A lot of it is realigning because some of those positions don't have money in them anymore, to your point, because how the state has kind of worked in terms of like budgeting for payroll. It's like we have this budgeted payroll that exists on the books at one particular point in time, but it never kind of adjusts whenever you have changes. And it could be anything. It could be raises, it could be collective bargaining, it could be all of these different things. And so that budgeted amount it never gets trued up. And that's something that, that I would like to, propose as we go forward, when we start cleaning up the payroll roster.
I don't disagree with you, Louis. However, these vacancies for over these numbers of years just doesn't make sense. So either you don't need them, or if you can't fill them because they need more funding, then maybe we should look at what can you get rid of so we can give more funding to those positions you truly, truly need.
Definitely, we'll take a look at that. And committing to you that I will be looking at our existing vacancy counts and FTEs and how we align that and how we become more transparent in what we communicate to you and what our payroll needs are.
Thank you.
So is this just a Manoa issue that you take all the positions once they're vacant and then you release them, or does every campus do that?
I have not been able to do, and it's not, I'm sorry, I was once the director of finance for the state of Hawaii. This is not just a University of Hawaii issue.
No,
I mean,
I'm
it
not saying it's
exists
just,
throughout state government.
no. What I'm saying is my understanding, what I was told is that there's a vacancy, it gets swept into a fund and you got to request it, right? And then it gets released. I just want to know if that's just Manoa thing. I see Vasila saying, no, it's
No,
not just
I
Manoa. I
see
don't know what
this
it's
and
no,
this.
but.
As the university has has a lot of authority, statutory
No,
authority.
I
when
get
it
that.
comes to data.
Right. I'm trying to understand what your internal policy is. Is it just a Manoa thing, or is it system-wide that every campus does that?
I can't speak.
Okay, so you don't
In
know.
total,
Okay, go
but
find
I will
out and let
I
us
will
know.
find out.
But I think the point is
Well, Vasila's shaking his head, so do you know?
And I have no problem
doesn't
with
wanna
somebody
come
coming and joining me up here at any point in time, by the way.
He doesn't want to come on. Chicken.
but yeah. No, I think the point is we're just trying to understand. Like, we look at the vacancy list. Is it just a Manoa thing, or you look at my home college of Maui College? Are they more accurate? I don't know. That's what we're just trying to find out, right?
I think these vacancies are all over the place. Manoa Community Colleges, the 4 years. At Manoa, for the faculty, we take back the empty or the vacant positions, and then we reassign them according to a process, internal process we have established for strategic investments. Now, there are also APTs, civil services, which we don't pull them back and we leave them with the units.
So it depends then what
It
position.
depends on what kind of position, yes.
Okay.
What was troubling back when those raises were given, the question I asked was, where is this money coming from? And he said, it's in my budget. And it's like, again, what's in your budget? All of the vacant positions, monies are in your budget? Is that what?
No.
Because where did the money
as,
come from then for the raises?
From positions that
Right.
they end up to
Which
be
is in his budget,
vacant
then
and
that's
you
his
don't have money
So
to.
that's the president's budget to be able to do
Yes,
that.
that's on the president discretion of how the general fund allocation on these
Which then
positions.
transforms to today, whereas when you elevate these positions, those increase in salaries, when you make somebody a vice president or associate vice president, will come out of these vacant savings.
Of course.
So you said that the reserve started to the balloon during COVID.
That's not true.
A big portion of it started to happen coming out.
Okay, so my understanding was around that time, that's when did you guys institute that policy of taking those positions at that time, or was it always there?
I don't know. I would have to
Okay,
get back to you
but-
when that policy was.
Provost, do you know?
Well, let me just say that as far as I know, UH has always had a carryover balance in the tuition fund of over $300,000.
300
3 to
million.
400, million dollars.
Our previous CFO was a really good CFO. We miss him. So I think the previous CFO, Calvert Young, he had managed the funds of the university extremely well. He was very frugal, as most of you know him.
Except when it came to
Of
raises.
him, and therefore we actually were and we still are in a very good financial state.
Okay, so there's no policy change then during COVID?
The reserve was always there. There
No,
is a
I know that
policy,
the
yes.
reserve was always there, but when you're saying, I want to know, okay, yes, you said COVID, federal funds, but did we have I thought that I heard that you became more strict during COVID. I don't know. Were you guys more strict at that time?
Here's what happened during COVID. We received an extremely high amount of federal funds.
Yeah. No, we know that part, but I'm talking about operational stuff.
But operationally, we used the federal funds for our operations, and we saved a
Okay,
lot.
so you
of
guys
attrition.
didn't change any of your hiring
No.
policies?
And during that time too, because of the federal coming in, there was also the maintenance of effort requirement that the
No,
state
yeah,
needed to
we know
maintain.
that.
Yeah.
So then you said you had investment returns. What was that?
Well, starting in 2020, the returns on the treasury, prior to that, the returns on the treasury were like basis points. And I think coming into COVID, that's when we saw like short-term interest rates rise to like almost 4%. So that's why you saw significant.
So you guys
increase
are
in-
making interest off of this?
Well, every state fund is making interest off of whatever balances that exist. It's the same thing with the state.
But shouldn't it go back to BNF?
No. But no,
Because you're making
depending-
money off of state money?
No, well,
And
but
you-
that was
the university
that was,
gets to keep it?
But that's tuition. That's tuition.
So you're
money
talking
that's
just
coming.
the tuition
Yeah, I'm just
funds.
talking tuition. We don't make money. The general fund money that we get stays within the general. Whatever interest is earned in that, because that's state.
Yeah,
that's
but
in the treasury.
you spend general fund money before you spend tuition money.
There is a desire to definitely utilize it. And again, because when you look at the way that we get our revenues come in, we get two major infusions of tuition and fees special funds, right? It's during this spring and the fall, the way we get it. And we get this baseline of general funds that we get throughout the course of the year. And so for us, it's kind of a manner of managing where our expenditure line is and where our revenues are coming in going forward. So there is a desire to utilize general funds first, because that is our most stable form of revenue.
Why hasn't the Board of Regents, if you feel like you need this type of reserve, why doesn't the Board of Regents just update your policy?
Where's the Board of Regents? Is somebody from the Board of Regents here?
Nobody from the Board of Regents is here right now, but
But you have more than one person on the board, right? You got what, 11 members? Yes. And nobody could attend? The two vice chairs not available?
Unfortunately, on short list.
Okay. But they know the legislative session is from mid-January, right?
yes, they do, and
And
we
they
will
did
make
say
that.
when we confirmed them that they would be available to do the work. Okay.
Okay, so on the policy,
There's the Board of Regents policy. The policy that the Board of Regents has, Senator, is that the University of Hawaii will maintain a reserve. And then of just, it'll maintain a reserve. And then there is an executive policy where the executive policy establishes that 16% threshold for us.
so it's the president.
So it is the president, it's the university that establishes it through an EP. But the board makes the determination that you will maintain a reserve.
So why doesn't the board codify that policy of 16%? Or I guess higher, because it's always higher according to Senator.
I mean, they could, and we can definitely have that discussion.
Because
with
then
the
at least
regents.
you know what exactly do you have to keep in reserve, and if you're gonna lapse you got to deploy the rest, right? If not, right? Because if you're not deploying it, like you could go fund NIL, right?
Well, and I think that's the discussion that
That's why I kept asking.
Right.
and that's the discussion that I've been having, with the president, is that how do we use these reserves, and how do we use this cash balances that have built over time to make the type of strategic investments that the legislature and the university want to see.
And I do have to give them credit for that, because in all the years that I've been asking about this overage, they said, no, we need it for the reserve. I said, you don't need that much for a reserve. So at least you folks have brought it forward, you're talking about it, and hopefully we're going to see some more action.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, well, if you feel like you need that much reserve, just make a policy, right? Update the 16%.
And right now, there is some uncertainty. Obviously, we know what's happening with the feds, and so there's an exercise and there's an analysis that we need to do right now.
But then you can tell us, we're going to keep 10% for the feds.
Correct,
We're going to
correct.
do this. At least then we have an idea.
Yes,
of
and
where
we
that
can-
money-
we can-
Where you're thinking of it, instead of, we're doing a reorganization and we see the funds disappear.
Correct. And as we go through that process, we will keep you informed, Chair, when we make those assessments.
I want to talk about your scholarship report for the last 2 years that I've
Okay.
been looking at it.
I may need a little help with that, but
Okay, so whoever's here, welcome to come up. According to the latest report, $208 million 208, 154, and $829 million total scholarship waivers and exemptions. That's based
From
on
our
this
report.
report and what I added up. Okay. $70 million, $383 million, financial assistance to students. Was this Hawaii's residents, or was this everybody? Because you have up here scholarships, and then you have waiver tuition differentials. So the $70 million in scholarships, did that go to residents or resident students?
It could be to students, depending on, what qualifies them in terms of either the waiver or the scholarship.
Well, that's what I'm trying to
attend the
determine, because
university.
your next line, your next paragraph talks about $108 million in 2024, 2025 went to non-resident students. So am I to assume that the 70 million was just to resident students?
We can get back to you.
So you're looking at the waivers non-resident tuition differential number, 108 million
I'm
there?
first looking at scholarships that have the
Scholarships.
70 million.
Yeah,
Okay, so is that
those are scholarships, so.
to resident students, local students?
So
Or
there-
is it
this-
everybody, anybody?
It would be, according to the campus, they do, as you mentioned, have their tuition, that percentage of the tuition that is returned back to students in the form of scholarships. And so campuses will decide how to allocate that to students, either based on need or merit.
Okay, but is it more than just resident students? Does it also include non-resident students?
I think the answer to your question is yes. It is more than just residents.
Okay, then why is the $108 million talked about board-approved non-resident tuition differentials waived for 9,277 non-resident students? Total of 40 million was waived for 4,172 non-resident students who assisted. And it goes on and on about the GI Bill and everything. So I'm just trying to determine, of the $208 million, what portion of that went to local students, to support local students?
We'll have to get you that information. I'm sorry, I don't have that right now.
I can look up, I just need to pull it up for a
Okay,
second. But,
okay, so that's the one question.
But the non-residential tuition differentials, the NRTDs, by policy go to specific allocated
Understand,
groups.
understand.
And so they're outlined here.
Right.
So for example, the
Right.
GI Bill. So those folks,
Right.
independent of any scholarship,
Understand.
would be getting 150%.
Right.
So
And-
that's how this is
Right,
divided.
and that's basically all non-residents in that category.
They would be those that are specifically identified by
Right.
policy.
But it's pretty much, as I read on and on, it's non-residents. Because it does say, it does
Yes, yeah,
say,
'cause it's
your
non-resident,
heading is
yeah.
waivers, non-resident
Yeah.
tuition
Tuition
differential.
differentials,
So
yes.
we're spending, or you're giving at least 492 million dollars worth of that, of those waivers.
Well, it's foregone revenue, it's not giving them money.
Right,
it's
but
not
you're waiving
collecting
it.
But we're
it.
But
waiving
it's
from the
technical
tuition.
monies that you would have received. Because as you go down on the bottom of that, the last line in that paragraph says, tuition revenue from all the non-resident students above was $97 million, $97.5 million. Okay, right, that last sentence on that paragraph? Because I keep hearing that, we love to have non-resident students because they bring in a lot of money because they pay non-resident tuition, right, which is higher. But according to this, it says total revenue from all non-resident students above was $97.5 million. Okay? Okay, but if we're giving out or waiving out 108 million, and we only took in 97 million, then there's a $11 million differential there. Where does the $11 million come out of for the non-residents differentials?
Yeah, I will have to get back to you on how that accounting of that particular scholarship and then the amount of revenue that's brought in is accounted for. I do understand what you're saying, that there is, if you're saying that you've given 108, but you've only received 97, then technically, we're losing money by bringing people in to the state of Hawaii. I think that's what.
Yes, but all these years, we've been told that the non-residents really support and add the money. And when I looked at this more closely and did the math, it shows that we're 11 million plus differential. So I'm wanting to know, where does that money, does that come out of our resident tuitions, or where is that coming out of?
I think it comes in totality, in the aggregate, the university and the amount of revenues. I think it's kind of a blended amount of revenue that comes in from different particular sources. And I think the waived revenue, especially for people coming out from out of state, kind of gets absorbed in the overall operations of the university itself. So I think I think we need to be clear about how we make that distinction in terms of revenue that's coming in from out-of-state students versus the amount of scholarships and waivers that we are providing to out-of-state students.
Well,
So that is
again,
something
these
that'll-
are numbers and it's taken directly from your reports. So if you're not reporting it correctly to us, and I guess people don't actually read this, I happen to read it and compare it, and it actually shows a decrease and an increase. It shows a decrease in the amount of waivers we gave to non-residents, and there was actually a slight increase to what was taken in, but it was very small. Okay, but it was still $106 million last year, and was 98 million that we took in. So it was still a differential going on there. But, the concern that I have, and I know my colleagues share, is that how are we helping our residents? A lot of money is going, and we understand WICHI, we understand WUI schools, we understand the GI Bill, all that. But at the end of the day, this is a lot of money, right? $288 million going for tuition waivers. And why aren't we tailoring this to the areas of need, like with shortage of nurses, shortage of teachers? Why aren't these waivers and scholarships targeting those areas, which we keep getting bills for every year, to support the pipeline and to support our workforce development?
I think the conversation is absolutely, the dialogue that we're having right now is what we need to hear in order to meet the kind of intention.
But it's not the first time we're bringing it up.
And I can only speak for the period of time that I've been here, Chair, but duly noted what you're saying. And I will provide a better accounting
Senator
for you
Kidani.
on that.
Yeah, and I think the other point that we're missing is that money, if spent here, if not spent for tuition away, would be spent here and help our state too. So I think we have to take that into consideration.
Senator
Understood.
Hashimoto.
So who looks at it on a yearly basis of the analysis of tuition revenues? Is it your position, or is it campus by campus?
My position is definitely involved in
Right.
it, right, from an overall revenue perspective, but I think from tuition revenue or tuition pricing for that matter, I think that it's a combination of many different parts of the university to make that determination. And I think we're kind of in the process right now to actually start looking at tuition and how much we are charging and how people are being charged. So
Is this a board?
the board
policy-
is
policy?
absolutely involved in the establishment of
But you
tuition
guys don't
and
have
tuition
to
rates.
bring something every year? Or is it just when you feel like you need to bring it to the board?
Well, I think it goes on a cycle. And in my reading of the policy, there's a cycle of review of the tuition and the tuition rates. I think the intention is so that people know and understand what tuition is going to be, because you don't want to keep changing it every year.
So take us through the
Right.
last review. What did that look like?
Are you talking about our tuition
That's
setting
right,
procedure?
because if
Yes.
if it's looking like this, like, did anyone even notice that, right? Like, did someone do the calculation? You're like,
So-
oh, maybe our out-of-state tuition is a little bit low. right?
Sorry, and I didn't introduce
Right.
myself, Vice President Academic Strategy,
Right.
Debbie Hubbard. Do you want me to
please.
just, and
Oh, the provost.
It's not okay if the
gonna come
provost
up
jumps
and,
up and is willing to talk, but
Shall I bring another chair?
No, I'm good. So let me give you a little bit of background on that. So there is, as an institution, we provide a lot of scholarships, a lot of waivers, and we have a high amount of NRTDs, the non-residential tuition differential. So that is supposed to be monitored by the head of every campus, and they need to have a business plan of how they expend their scholarships, the NRTDs and the waivers. So specifically for Manoa, since I came into that position, for NRTDs, we charge $87,973 and $747.
87 million?
Yes, and then we waive 96, 125, 257. So the NRTDs, obviously, we are spending more than we getting in. This is, in my opinion, I just came into the job, a little bit problematic. So this needs.
So when did we figure this out, though?
I figured that out like 3-4 months ago. I've been in the job for 6.
We're losing money on out-of-state people then.
We need to rebalance our strategy there.
Rebalance. Okay, that's a good word.
And that actually, it is part of President Hensel's strategy. When she came in, and she did ask me to look into our strategy for scholarships, NRTDs, and waivers, and we're going to be changing that. We, at Manoa, I cannot speak for other campuses, we are very generous on our NRTDs policies, on the waivers and the scholarships. We have to tighten it up a little bit more because we need that revenue to run our operations a little bit better.
So what's the timeline on that? That's really alarming.
This year,
I would think,
actually.
ASAP, right?
Yes, this is this year. We're just starting having that conversation. It's going to change. Also, it is a really impressive amount of money that Manoa provides in terms of scholarships, waivers, and NRTDs.
So, but what is the strategy though of offering that? Like, are these
So,
people staying
yes.
or like?
So some of them is the WUI.
Right, like
had
and the WUI is
150.
it is what it is, right?
But even that is not, it is what it is. I think we are a good deal for people coming in from WUI schools.
But we get the reciprocal benefit. Of our
We
kids,
do,
right?
but
Yeah.
more people come in than people going out.
You
And
guys
it
have-
is-
Keep that data,
and-
you can limit it, right? Can't you limit it?
You can limit it and then you can change the rate, right? We are one of the cheapest ones, 150% of our residential tuition. So some of the things we're looking, do we need to go
Right.
from 150 to 175? And therefore, we're not losing money, right? So these are some of the things that we're looking. The other one is the merit scholarships. Do we need to tighten up a little bit more the criteria for that merit and be truly meritorious?
It's great that you're looking at it, but we want action.
Excuse me?
We want results and action, not just looking at it. Yeah.
Yes, I just look at that. So we have actually offered the scholarship, Senator.
Please
I
don't
cannot take
hire
them
a
back.
Please don't hire a consultant to tell you what you should be doing, okay?
I don't think I need a consultant for
Yes,
that.
I don't think so.
So, and then the board has a policy about the 10%. So there is a minimum floor on how much we should give out in need-based scholarships, and that's 10% of our tuition revenue.
So, let me interrupt a minute. So who is responsible for making sure that these numbers meet the certain policies that?
I would say the head of the campus, of each campus. So
Okay. So can the head of each campus just unilaterally decide, or can the president just unilaterally decide, I'm going to give this bunch of students?
It is not unilaterally. You have to have a strategy. So these packages for scholarships are put together every year, a year ahead, right?
So when the President Lasner went and gave all the Lahaina Luna
These
students,
are your,
and I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying, when he did that, did he go to the board? Did you folks do it a year in advance? No, you didn't do it a year in advance, it's obvious. I mean, it seemed like it was a spur in a moment thing he did, right?
that's correct.
Okay, without any regard to the impact, right? To tuition, to anything. Okay, I mean, and it was a one-time situation. I mean, I'm not saying that,
It is a one-time situation, but you understand this is for 4 years.
Well, see,
on
that's-
3 cohorts.
Well,
So at
that's the
some
thing.
point, it's going to peak, and we're not on the peak, and then it's going to have to come
well,
down.
see, when I heard about it, I thought it was just for the senior graduating class, but it wasn't. It was for all
For
40.
3 cohorts, yeah.
For 3
So
cohorts. And what's the total cost for that? Completely
I can
free
get that because I
tuition?
have it in my office because I've looked
Is
at
that
that.
in this?
It is in
included?
this, yes, it is included.
And was that for all local
I don't
students?
think it is, yeah.
Those were private.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't, because when I looked at the thing, it didn't go
private
up.
funds.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's
what
private funds?
waivers?
Oh, who's providing the funds?
These are scholarships. And the cost of attendance, so not only we paid for the tuition, but also we paid for the cost of attendance.
What do you mean by cost for attendance?
For the food,
Airfare?
meal,
Room and board.
A room and board,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. So who's paying for it again?
Manoa,
No, she said private.
The first year was private funds.
Only the first year.
Private funds. This is the second year, then we'll have to figure out, I'm not sure what the second year is.
Okay, but it's how many years? Because it's 3
there are 3
cohorts, right?
cohorts, yes.
So this is
For 3
only the
years.
second year of the first cohort.
We just awarded the 3rd cohort
Well,
this
you
year.
just awarded the 3rd. So now you're paying first, second,
And
and
third.
3rd
And
altogether.
the first, right? The first
Right, the
hasn't
first
gone
never
through the
graduated yet.
pipeline. It is for 4 years.
Right. So did you want to say something? Foundation, right?
Thank you, Chair. So Tim Dolan, UH Foundation. So on that first year of private funding, $8 million was raised. Not all of that went to scholarships. Some of it went to programs at Maui College. But you're correct that we only had that commitment for 8 million, which clearly does not cover all of the whole entire cohort. It was just for 1 year.
It wasn't the, Carrie, as the attorney looking at this, far into the future beyond the president's stay, what is that? I mean, and again, it is not against Lahaina Luna, it's a decision.
Policy.
Policy
Yeah,
making.
policy.
I think the answer is that we don't have a policy that requires the president in that situation to come to the board for approval. Pretty sure the president at the time consulted with board leadership. I don't know to what detail, to your point about
Yeah,
how
but those kinds
much
of decision-making are
money
not
was
supposed
there
to be
available.
made without sunshine. I mean,
Yeah, it
those
was-
decision-making, again, and I know you're very particular when you talk to board members, that they shouldn't be making decisions, they shouldn't be meeting and so forth, but you're pretty much, I hear about it, that you're pretty strict about that, so it's fine. But then, again, you look
To
the other
protect
way on
them.
this one. Obviously, but there needs to be a policy, and that's why the Board of Regents should have somebody here in these meetings, so they can follow up on these things, because, again, we're talking about the budget, and we're talking about, potentially, this is for Lahaina Luna, it could have easily been for Gorman High School, who knows where it might, could have been, right? So,
I think one point at which the board gets briefed about scholarships is especially when there's fee increase when the administration comes in for tuition increases, then there's, if I'm remembering correctly, there's more data provided at that time.
so where is the money gonna come from for all 3 cohorts? Now that the first year was paid for, where is the money gonna come from?
From the Manoa tuition account.
From this,
From the cut.
It'll come from the tuition and fees special fund.
so it'll come out of this extra $245 million?
That would be a great idea, but right now that is not the case. It's coming from the Manoa tuition.
And how much is in that Manoa tuition fund?
The reserve or the?
I don't know, how much money is it in period?
In the
Where
in
this
the
money
Manoa
is
tuition.
supposing gonna come out of the
It is
cohorts?
$50 million.
There's 50 million. That's not enough to take care of all 3 cohorts for the next 4, 8, 12 years.
50 million is the current balance that exists in there. So obviously, as we continue to go through this, whatever the, Vasilis is working on his particular budget in terms of like how he's going to make those expenditures, given the revenue that he has in any given year, and see how much he's going to have to draw down off of the reserves
Because
or
if
the
it's
cash balances.
approximately 8 million for 1 year, just to say, maybe give or take, 8 million, and you have all 3 going through at the same time, right? And one falls off, but you're still gonna have 3. So you're talking about
$24 million a
24
year
million a year.
for a period of time until they cycle out. There's going to be a peak and then.
Yeah, so you have 24 million, at least for 3 years, 24 million,
That is correct.
right? And if you only got 50 million, even though you get replenished at the third 24 million, I don't know what that's gonna be. And then you're gonna come to us and ask us for more money?
Understand, and what we can do, Chair, is provide you on how we plan to make those, those expenditures in the coming years. Because it's not all gonna be like straight cash that's in. I mean, a lot of it gets absorbed in the existing operations of the campus
Let me ask you
itself.
this, how many of these cohorts, what percentage is non-residents? Because they have non-residents that go to Lahaina Luna, right?
We'll have to get back to you, but we can
Okay,
pull that.
and are students that come into the school after this offer was given? So say I come in as a junior this year, this past year, would I be included in that cohort?
They were only distributed to the class of 2024.
The impacted class.
The impacted
pink-
class.
Right,
from
but
the
you're
far-
doing,
And so.
but you're doing the next class and the next class and,
No, it's just
No.
that set of students through their potential 4 years of college. So some of them are at Maui College, some of them are at
oh,
Mahanoa.
I thought I was told that it was the
3 cohorts.
senior, the juniors and the sophomores at the time, that all of them would get it.
That's
Is
what
that
I
true?
thought. That's what I thought you said. No, that's correct.
That's
Okay.
correct?
Provost is saying it's correct.
Okay, see,
Okay,
we
then
we don't even know, but my question is, how many non-residents is gonna get this? And if I enter as a junior and I wasn't part of it originally, do I qualify? Because I can imagine a lot of people might,
So I doubt that there are going to be any non-resident,
there's
Hawaii
non-residents
non-residents in this
Lahaina
cohort.
Luna.
How can you be a
Because-
graduate of Hawaii?
No, because some of these students come from Micronesia or other places, right? And they enroll at
They
Lahaina
board,
Luna.
they
and They
board.
board, but they're not residents.
If that's the case, then
Well, I
that
just want
will
to
be-
know how many,
Okay,
what
we'll get you that
percentage.
number.
We need to pull that information
Yeah,
out.
and then anybody joining in as a junior or sophomore
Yeah,
after this offer was made, would they be included?
we can get you that. Probably they will. We didn't delineate
Because it wasn't
between.
thought out, that's why, when this was set forth, right?
I gotta live with what I gotta live, Senator.
Yeah, because it was on your watch.
My watch?
Yeah, you were there.
No?
No, you were there.
Where?
When the Lahaina Luna salaries.
I was in a different job. I was
But
not.
but you're at the university.
I
You're
was
in-
at the
You're
university.
in the leadership, one of the vice presidents.
I was one of the vice presidents, yes, for research and innovation.
Yeah, and we have all the other vice presidents here, several of them as well, so,
Well,
okay.
I think this just begs the question, though. Like, I hope you dive into the financials very soon, right? Because
this
part
is,
of it is not only this part, right?
Yes, it's-
Resident, non-resident, but it's also we asked about fees, right? What is the
So,
what is
Senator
the fund
Hashimoto,
fees
this
that we're
is-
funding? What is student housing charging? Like she was very hesitant
are
about doing student
definitely-
housing, right? It
Right.
all mixes into this, right?
Yes.
This is probably my number one priority for the finances of Manoa, the scholarship accounts.
That's not what you told me the last time, just kidding.
I didn't tell you anything. And why would I tell you, Senator?
I'm kidding. doesn't tell me anything. I have to call him and ask. Okay, are we done with the scholarships? Can we move on?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about our artificial intelligence AI. So do we have?
I have with me Ina
Okay.
Wonka.
Oh, good, we get to meet her.
Hello,
Hello,
very nice to meet you.
nice to meet you all. So according to the Business News, integrated Business News, they talk about the integrated and teach IA and the UH to launch fully online degree program. So can you tell us about what your role is and what's the goal and what the projected outcomes might be?
Sure, I would love to. I was hired as a Chief Academic Technology Innovation Officer
When was that?
in August 25th.
August 25th, okay.
Yes. And in general, my role is very strategic. I help senior leadership to really shape up the AI strategy with concrete goals to build an AI governance framework to forge public-private, partnerships with our industry partners as well as with local organizations, as well as to promote AI strategic priorities. And since I started, I've been on this listening tour because I'm very new and I wanted to learn how AI is actually showing up across different campuses, how AI has been used, and what are the concerns of faculty, students, and staff. And I have been engaging in variety of campus, directly with the campuses in conversations.
You say
And
campuses, you're talking about Hawaii campuses.
all of the 10 campuses, all of the 10 campuses. As a matter of fact, I had conversations with 6 of them, and I'm still like, this is an ongoing effort, right? That is informing how we can move forward in a more coordinated way. So the learnings that, and I would like to mention that I was also collaborating with the Vice President of Research and Innovation to launch a system-wide AI survey that really, we collected 300 responses from all across the campuses. And what we have realized at a system level is that AI is really happening very unevenly across the campuses. And we really need to work on creating a coordinated approach. And one of the kind of the projects since I started was to launch and co-chair an AI planning group. This is a cross-campus, cross-disciplinary, I would say, advisory group that consists of, faculty, senior leaders, administrators from across the 10 campuses, and they have a goal to really not prescribe AI policies or to their goal is to give recommendations to the president and to, we know that AI conversations are happening all around. To support their work, we started to launch also a task forces, which have a particular goal to really look into a specific area of AI and do a deep dive. Like, for example, in October, we launched a task force on teaching and learning. We started to meet every month and to design the deliverables in the next 6 to 8 months. Within this task force, we have subgroups who are really looking at AI literacy and how AI fits within the curriculum, assessing what are the needs of faculty in terms of guidance and use cases, looking at what is the technology landscape and the available tools that can help teachers as well as instructors, looking at what are also the skills that needs to be taught in regards to AI. And so this group will provide recommendations to the planning group. We have also launched another task force on Hawaiian values and cultures. We started this task force in December, whose role is to really explore and explore how Hawaiian values, cultures, and language can be carried and protected in context of AI. So we have representatives from all the different 10 campuses within these task forces. And the idea here is to really create recommendations, share best practices, and inform campuses on some of the approaches they can take to really direct their AI initiatives and projects that are happening. This year, we are also moving forward. Actually, not this year, this spring, we have a concrete deliverables. I mean, I have a list of projects we are advancing. Launching a system-wide website is very important to keep really everyone within all of the 10 campuses transparent about what is happening at AI system-wide level. And this particular website will launch. The name of the task forces will really help people to understand what are the outcomes of some of these task force meetings. We will plan to also have our resources to increase AI literacy. Building on that, really create information and resources for everyone to be informed.
When you say AI literacy, who is this for? For just the campuses, or is this for the?
For students,
community abroad,
for
or-
students, faculty, and staff. We're looking all across. What are the skills? What is the knowledge that is needed? Assessment needs to be done, and then from the task force, right? Recommendations will be formed.
How long is it going to take for you to complete your assessment?
For 6 months, 6 to 8 months. These are
6
very
months. So
short.
when do you expect to launch your website?
Oh, the website will be launched by the end of February.
Okay, so as of right now, you got here in August, you've spent 5 months on a listening tour, you've taken a survey in which 300 people have participated, which triggered the planning group, the task force, and then another task force who apparently is made up of faculty, senior leaders, and administrative people.
Correct.
Right?
Correct?
Yes,
Okay.
and it's been recognized, and I think, President has said it herself. I mean, what AI is doing to higher education, I mean, it's disruptive. I mean, it is definitely something that's happening right now. University of Hawaii is in many ways at the forefront, and we're trying to understand how it is going to impact, our institution of higher learning going forward. So with the work that Ina is doing, is to kind of lay that framework and that roadmap on how we are going to integrate it at every level, the student, the faculty, the governance, and everything, because, I mean,
But I don't hear the community in that.
and the community as well as industry too as well, because we have to prepare the students that are graduating out of the university for work that is essentially going to require it. It could be anything, it could be finance, it could be even clerical. But AI is going to permeate. I mean, there's discussions that AI could conceivably be a gen ed requirement going forward, right? So these are the things that are happening, I think, in the AI world that we need to be prepared for going forward, and that's the work that you
Yeah,
do as
so
well.
if the task force and planning groups are made up of faculty and senior leaders and admin, why do we need you?
I am providing strategic advice, also a coordination and alignment between different stakeholders. I also actually met with local employers here, some representatives from Hilton, others are consulting companies like Pacific, let me just make sure that I'm pronouncing it right. The name are Pacific Point, Nimble Brain. I also met with the Department of Commerce, Consumer Affairs, with the Chief Data Officer here, just to really understand what they're looking in terms of employers, what kinds of knowledge their employers need to help in terms of AI. And through these conversations, especially through the listening tour and the survey, it really came to our attention that there is no shared AI baseline understanding across the campuses. This is why I also started to develop an AI online course to really help our students, faculty, and staff to gain practical knowledge of AI. We will release the course between February and April. It is consisting of 4 modules. One is really about what AI is, what is not, what are the tools that current local organizations are using in the use cases and scenarios, as well as how to use AI in a responsible way, how AI has been also used in teaching and learning. And we're developing that in help with the local organizations as well. So
Don't you think we're a little bit kind of past that as far as how to use AI, the negative and positive impacts? Do you think society here in Hawaii has kind of had a handle on it? I mean, I have kupunas that use AI and ChatGPT. I find it hard to believe that students will need to be trained on the basic operational functions of AI.
I think there is an ongoing effort because there are definitely different changes, right? There are different tools and different functionalities. We have to be updating our guidelines and policies. And I think it's the ethical, how we can ethically using different tools is something that industry is really looking right now to have as a skill from their employees.
What does that mean ethically?
Ethic means, can we really have humans overseeing decisions? Like humans are in the loop, right? There is a framework. Ethically means also protecting private information, personal identifiable information, being transparent. When models are, for example, developed, they need to be tested for biases, right? For and other security issues. So every organization is identifying their ethical principles and guidelines. But usually those are, as I mentioned, around transparency, human oversight. And those things need to be taught because I have heard from students, they don't know really what is acceptable to be used and what not. And employers really are looking now to create jobs for people who understand these ethical concerns. I mean, ethical compliance is becoming like the new competitive advantage for organizations. That is a big issue moving forward with AI. How we manage it in a way that doesn't harm people. And through these task forces, we really would like to find the right principles that can guide our decisions moving forward and prepare our students to meet the demands of the economic, market.
What, in your opinion, would be the worst way to use AI as far as your students are concerned?
Without any understanding of what is acceptable. I mean, a lot of the students are asking, can we use, for example, ChatGPT for assignments, right? And how can we use it within different academic settings? And I think the worst thing is not to explain them that they have to be really protective and read what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. Usually, universities have sometimes enterprise licenses that protect information, right? But if you are using a generic tool, then you have to be very, very careful of how are you using the information, because these tools you are sharing information, and you don't know how your information would be governed and whether there will be a data breach.
I think we're a little past the mark as far as sharing information. I mean, we've got algorithms that track our websites and what we search and starts feeding us ads. So I'm trying to find where exactly this fits in with the generation who is using ChatGPT no matter what. I use it no matter what. Plenty of people are using it.
But they don't know also the limitation of it and what are some of the new threats, right? I mean, right now there's a lot of different kinds of attacks. Even like there are agents, AI agents that can actually intercept different data. So it's all about human
hackers.
Yes, hackers. They're like human behavior. I mean, we're vulnerable, right? We're the weakest link in the cybersecurity chain in general. But I think it's just really being awareness of also that there are a lot of hallucinations, right, with the ChatGPT or Gemini. And so, yes, we're changing, I mean, technology is evolving, but a lot of these tools are offering also some kinds of procedural, very lengthy answer. I don't know if you have tried recently, but if you're asking for ideation or an answer, now ChatGPT is providing this, like a memo of long answers, right? This is not helping with really thinking with AI, really like amplifying our creative and cognitive skills. So how do we teach students really to use it in a way that will help them with concepts?
Let me jump
Not
in,
just
and I
with
think
steps.
where she's going on this, and it's a concern that I raise, is that we're kind of late to the party, right? The community, the businesses, as AI has been introduced to the community, I mean, it's been there all the time, but it's not been in the general public till several years. That the university is supposed to be the leader in providing these this information, safeguards, what's ethical, what's not ethical. But some of the professors, or majority of professors, have not even embraced AI, to this day have not embraced AI. And so while our students and our teachers and businesses are out there trying to make sense of all of this, there is nobody there until right now that you're starting this, and I'm not putting this necessarily on you because you weren't here with the previous administration, but for a university that says we're R1 and we're getting $700 million worth of research, yet somehow the research did not embark on, hey, AI is coming, guys. Hey, AI, you folks need to be in front of the ball and not wait 5 to 6 years later to say, oh, now we're putting these working groups together. Now we're going to be out there because, again, it's already out there, whether good or bad. Bad habits already been adopted, and yet the university is lagging behind. So let me ask you, so how are you working with the community college and their AI efforts?
So each community, I mean, the community college and all of the different campuses have different initiatives. And I had conversations to understand where the efforts are. And I agree that there should be more coordinated effort to really kind of keep the inventory open and the discussions ongoing.
Can you
But
point to a specific program and a specific community college that you're working with to coordinate this?
I am currently not managing their efforts. Things have been highlighted of what other campuses are doing. We have a representative from the community college in our task force, but
you said you've done all these listening tours and you've been to all these so is there any specific college that is working on AI, a specific project?
there are many different colleges that are working on many different
Like what?
like, for example, the business school is launching a pilot of AI innovation lab, and other projects. But those are campus specific. We bring awareness and opportunity. One of my goals now is to create this like system-wide network, a platform to build this community of practice, coordination, visibility of those projects, so that we understand even how we can scale those efforts across different campuses. But I'm not managing them. I'm just trying to really create the platform in the community.
No, you're not managing them, but if this is a project for the entire university, then if a campus is using state monies for a program, we don't want to see one here, one there. We want to see that it's coming together. Before I ask Kahele to come up, so what is you have an office, AI office, or?
Yes, it's a newly established office, Office of Academic Technology
And how many people in
Innovation.
the office? Just you right now?
We just established the office when I first came in, and I have 3 part-time employees that are supporting my work for this semester. And they have a very particular campus technology experience and capacity to really help me. But we haven't formalized a structure or teams yet.
And the budget for your office is how much? Do you have a budget for that office?
I think someone else will answer that question about.
Right now, the budget is between 2 to 3 million, but what Ina is doing and what the positions that she has right now are people that exist at the campus level and have been essentially redeployed. So we're accounting for them in terms
So
of
where
like
were they
that.
before?
I think one person was within the community college
And we don't
system.
need them anymore. So how are we even have them to
They're,
begin with?
they're splitting their time because these are individuals that are, have the expertise and have the knowledge for the work that Ina is doing to try and implement these system-wide initiatives going forward. So it's more of a redeployment of existing resources versus the establishment of a brand-new budget. But we're
Which is
accounting
good.
for that.
Yeah, that's good. But in Pacific Business, you said that UH to launch a fully online degree program. So is that your major role, or is it to coordinate across all the campuses and bringing AI like you explained to us? Or is it to do the degree, or is it both?
So I am, in my office right now, is developing, as I mentioned, an AI online course, which is a short introductory course. I'm not sure about the rest of the programs that have been brought up at the news, but that's what I'm
Okay,
responsible
but you did
for
go
at
to
the
all the
moment.
campuses and you did a listening tour.
I did, yes.
Okay, and over what period of time was that?
From when I started, this is an ongoing effort. And as I mentioned, we're really trying to bring visibility in our AI inventory and experimenting also to create a dashboard and try to add that dashboard within our website.
So what percentage of your time is spent here in Hawaii versus out of state?
100%.
100% here?
Yes.
Sure?
I
That's not
moved,
what I hear.
so maybe I would like to actually offer an explanation. I moved in Hawaii in September, and during my tenure, I had to actually travel due to unforeseen family emergencies. Unfortunately, I had to resolve this issue, which required me to travel briefly. Now, since the issue has been resolved, I'm here.
Okay, well, that's good to know, but when you say you're here 100%, it didn't go along to what, this is a small place. Hawaii is a small place, and people talk a lot, so I just want to.
Yeah, I just
that
want
point.
to be transparent as well.
Okay.
And give
And if your program
explanation.
is getting $2 to $3 million, we will definitely start nitpicking. Just circling back really quick to that position with your 3 part-time staffers, where is your physical office?
At the ICT campus at the Korea Road, 2520 in Manoa, yes.
Not in Bachman.
No, not in the
President said
Bachman,
Bachman
no.
when we were in the WAM meeting. She said you're in Bachman Hall, no?
No, it's
No.
in the IT.
IT,
building.
yes, building.
Okay, well, she did say in her office. So
She said Bachman.
she said, the question was posed, where is she housed? And in my office.
I mean, I think
The quote was
housed in terms of
my office.
organizationally, organizationally, she's housed under the president's.
Well, I think it was
office, but I think
physically, because I asked the
physical.
question about,
Okay.
is she here? Yeah, so well, anyway, that's water under the bridge. Can we call Kahele?
Thank you.
No, you're not done.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm
You
sorry.
might be done, right, I mean, yeah,
Okay, I'll get off.
okay. So have you met with?
Yes,
Yes, and you talked about your program?
yes, briefly, yes.
Okay, well, that was what I was getting at, and I was surprised you didn't specifically, because the legislature has only appropriated for one AI program with his workforce, and she's one. And so with you not mentioning it, it makes me wonder, who have you been talking to? Because we've only had one, and we gave $1 million, which is why we know this program. And what I want to know, I'm sure the committee wants to know, is how are we coordinating this? And we don't want to duplicate it. And if you're there, then why do we need you? Or vice versa. I mean, I know this is specifically on workforce, but again, if we're doing a whole AI, then we need to incorporate it and make sure that the funding that we're spending is not going to you know, it's not going to be duplicated at some point, or?
Yeah, so I mean, our project is an AI project, so using AI to improve information access and
Okay,
sharing.
isn't that exactly what she said that she's supposed to be doing or is doing?
Yes, I think her, I mean, I'm not gonna speak for her, but ours is pretty specific. Hers is, right now across our campuses, we have all kinds of AI things
Right,
happening, right?
and that's why we want to-
With faculty, with academic senates, with all kinds of different groups. And she's the person to bring together the system initiatives. This is probably one initiative under the larger umbrella of all of them.
Right. And
That
so-
has a specific purpose. So
Right.
I think hers is more instructional and ours is more information access. And as an AI tool for our students, faculty, and also the community.
Well, that worries me when you say, oh, hers is more instructional, ours is more, I mean, shouldn't there be a
I mean, it'll be a
coordinated
tool that
effort?
they can use, but when I mean instructional, it's sort of like, I mean, I come from Maui College, right? So faculty are figuring out how to use AI and how to manage AI in their classrooms. I mean, they have been doing that for years. What's coming to head is sort of the collaborative effort to maybe align some of those initiatives across the campuses. So like in the classroom, like how do you teach English 100? And how do you manage the use of AI when you're trying to teach somebody to write and they can go into ChatGPT and get, you know what I mean? So it's those kinds of instructional strategies, I think, that we're trying to figure out on a very, that's the sort of simplest application of AI, but it's one thing that we're managing.
So you had submitted an RFP to create the interface,
Yes,
right?
and it posted Monday, I think, yes.
Okay, so is that also a resource that she will be using, or how does her role integrate into your role, or it doesn't?
I
How
mean,
does your role integrate into hers?
Yeah,
I think at some point, probably in the process that we are in now for the RFP, we posted the RFP, then we will get submissions, and then we have to review the submissions to, of course, select the vendor, and that is something that probably will involve somebody from her office or herself to help us sort of analyze the submissions to figure out what vendor is the best vendor to move forward with.
okay, because you guys were planning your system before her,
Yes.
right? Okay, so what was your plan if she wasn't here? Like, you guys would have probably figured it out, right?
Yeah, and I guess our understanding of the $1 million was not for AI application in the instructional areas. Our understanding was that they wanted a tool
Yeah.
that could be used by anybody, basically, to access information on education pathways from the high school into the 2-year, into the 4-year, along with all the other applications that somebody would want to access if they're looking for employment, right? So they
But
can
shouldn't that
access
be part
wages.
of that program? Because there's all these working groups, so how are your program dovetailing with some of these working groups?
This particular tool,
Because it's a tool, but it's gonna be a tool for everybody, pretty much,
Sure,
right?
sure.
Yeah, right. So
Right.
it's an AI tool. So again, we need, what we're trying to get here and why I'm asking you these questions is not clear in our minds as to what is the funding going for and whether or not there'll be duplicate programs or whether or not we're efficiently using and who exactly is going to be the one to tell us what's going on. And the fact that UH needs to be the point of the spear and needs to be ahead of the rest of the community so that you can guide the students, guide the teachers, the faculty, the public school administrators, and even legislators about AI, right? And how it should be used and what's ethical and what's not ethical, and the fact that, you know, whatever you write into ChatGPT will stay in the system and they will grab whatever you're saying and they will send it out. I've argued with ChatGPT, by the way, because they gave me wrong information. And I said, are you sure? Because I do, oh, you're right, but, you know, if you don't correct them, then they have the wrong information. And that's what information they're gonna spit out to somebody else that asks a similar question. But again, I've learned this through trial and error, but these are stuff that a lot of people out there have no clue about. And how is the university getting ahead of this so that, whether it be night classes for adults, for working adults, whether it be, just other ways of offering some kind of workshops to the general public or stuff like that. How is the university going to?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. These are so valid concerns, and I have to tell you, the world of AI is so messy.
and it
Everybody right
changes
now is
very
trying
quickly.
exactly to figure out how to put the right, governance, how to really coordinate efforts, how to manage AI and teams together.
Right.
And this is exactly what we're trying to do.
By the
but
time
we're
you do that,
still-
it's going to be outdated because it changes so fast, right?
It is changing, yes, but that's why we're trying with smaller efforts right now with this, for example, online course that we're launching, right? Then the task force will have a more concrete recommendation plan. I'm also trying to build a community of practice and really kind of solidify what this campus engagement look like, to really hope that we will not have a duplicative efforts. And that's a big undertake. One of these deliverables is, as I mentioned, is to build a dashboard and really to keep everybody informed. But you can't keep them informed just like by survey, right? There has to be a more coordinated platform. So those are kinds of pressing issues that keep me at night, and there are no straight answers. And I'm trying to be as fast as I can. And I really appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with you to keep you informed.
To hear you say that there are no straight answers is problematic because you are coming in and you're supposed to be the experts, right? The expert, you're supposed to tell us where there are loopholes and where we need to tighten up. And right now with your position and have already started your interface process, I feel like the university is just trying to make your position work, to make it work. And it's coming with a heavy $3 million budget. And so I'm trying to understand what is the negative impact if we didn't have your position. I think that society would figure it out. I think that we would go on. It could potentially make your program a little bit more difficult because what you were doing was creating an access to the data. The student could come, they can get it, they can get all the information. Now we're adding on another piece, which could potentially make it more complicated. So creating a dashboard, I don't know necessarily if.
Well, I'm just appointing one of the deliverables, right? But there should be a strategic oversight, and as I mentioned, coordinated action. And I have been working in the industry. I have more than 10 years experience within product and innovation. As I mentioned, things are really changing very fast. What we really need to do is keep the conversations and have a shared understanding of how we're moving forward. That starts with having a shared knowledge of AI.
I think it starts with you informing us. Like, you can start by giving us a list of these working groups, which groups are doing what, who's on the groups. You can do that by letting us know what your goals and what your steps, calendar, and what the outcomes that you're gonna have. I think if you can provide that to us and how it dovetails into the community colleges as well, in the community, then it'll give us a better understanding of what's going on. But without that kind of feedback and communication, then you're gonna have people with questions, a lot of questions. And even then, we're probably gonna have some questions, so.
Thank you. I will follow up with information as
Appreciate
requested.
that, yeah.
I'm really curious to know how this also impacts our DOE students who are learning AI and learning to get on probably without their parents' knowledge and, all of these things. So how do we bring in the DOE and who are the people in the work group? Does it include DOE people? So that we can make sure that our youngsters are trained early to recognize that information can be misused.
Can you get that part of that? You're gonna put it to that question.
Okay,
Okay, because we're not gonna answer that all today.
okay, that's good.
I know it's a lot, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I know time is fleeting. We have quite more to go. Why don't we talk about sports, our NIL, our athletic director's been sitting there patiently. So thank you for your report. Members, I think we did share this report with you as well. So I guess the first question that I have is the amounts that is on what your report on January 27th, 2026 report, is these amounts before or after the fees to the foundation?
First of all, good afternoon, Chair Kim.
Sorry.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Kidani, and members of the committee. Matt Elliott, Director of Athletics for the University of Hawaii, Manoa. These are the amounts that came in, so before fees. These are the totals that came in.
So then what would be, what is it, 5% that they take?
I believe that is the standard fee, yes. I don't know if that applies to every single transaction here. There's 800.
It does, right? It does. Yeah, every single dollar
Okay,
that they
yep.
take. 5% was it? 10, 5%. So, okay, so this numbers have to be adjusted because this is not exactly what you actually will have to spend, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Can you explain post date and transaction date? I guess trans stands for transaction.
I think that's just a system. I don't know exactly that report, but I think it's just the system of transaction is when I believe the gift would have been made, and then post is when it is into the system.
That's right, John.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so the person donated it on August 21st, but it didn't get posted to August 27th. But then the one right after it got it on August 25th, but posted on August 27th. So you have some lag, and then you don't have some lag. Is there a systematic?
What we could do, if clarification is needed on the differential between the two dates, we're very happy to clean that up.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Provide an
because
explanation.
how that, and this is Boost the Bows Fund. Is there a longer name to this? Because it doesn't say NIL, but.
These are the funds that we created. So prior to July 1st, there were no NIL funds in our athletics department. So we created 22 Boost the Bow funds, one for the athletics department overall, and then one for each team. And all of these funds were created around by the time they were set up. I think the earliest transactions are late August. So I believe that's when they were first created, and now they've been in place since then.
Okay, so when you say 22 Boost the Bows Fund, what do you mean 22 Boost the?
So there's 21 teams, yeah, so
21
each
teams
team
have
has
their
one,
own
yep,
fund.
and then one that's
And
overall for the
is all
department.
that NIL or just in general?
These are just NIL funds, correct?
NIL funds.
That's what the Boost the Bows, it was just a nickname we came up with to label our NIL funds.
So people know when they gave that is for NIL, when they gave to Boost the Fund?
That's right, because we explicitly labeled it as the NIL fund, and if you go on the website now, you can see that the Boost the Bows fund is for NIL, and then we have the Our Team, Hawaii's team funds, and those are for operations.
Okay, so when I see in the back.
Yep.
Members are looking at the back page. Where 200,000 came from the men's basketball fundraising event?
Right.
So is this money's going just to basketball, or is it then goes spread out to everybody?
That's just for basketball.
So it is earmarked for basketball?
That's right.
NIL?
Yes.
NIL. Okay. And then there's transfer donations in column B indicate dollars that were raised prior to July 1, 2026, and were transferred to NIL accounts, $87,000.
Right.
So where was that raised from?
So those are just a assortment of accounts that were
That was
in
consolidated.
foundation. Yeah, that
I
were
asked
not
that-
being used.
I asked that question at the WAM, and I asked if you consolidated funds, and you said no.
Well, I said they weren't part of the 1.5 that I was telling you. These are in addition to the 1.5.
This is in addition to that.
Right.
But the 1.5 is not even the full total, right? Because you didn't take out the 5%,
I was just
right?
describing what we had raised. Yes, you're correct. We didn't
So
make
the
that.
$87,000 is not, it was not designated for NIL, but what was it designated for originally?
It was just from an assortment of foundation accounts. There may be a number of different
Well, I'm
foundation
asking the
accounts.
foundation, this is your accounts that was
Yeah.
consolidated.
For the $87,000 account question, I'd have to go specifically and look at that, if you don't mind. I don't have that.
Okay, well, that's what I had asked for, and
I see.
we didn't get it, because I think I added that when we sent the letters out. Questions, members, any other questions on the NIL?
Yeah, Chair.
Yes. Oh, the totals on the very last page. While she's looking at it,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. In our info briefing, there was no documented ask of the 5 million. Did that get remedied? The 5 million for NIL. There was a discussion about the 5 million for NIL. Did that get remedied? It wasn't in a bill. It wasn't in your folks' budget briefing. In the January 14th WAM info briefing,
So the 5 million request, that was part of the Board of Regents request for the upcoming supplemental budget. That was not included in the executive supplemental budget that came down. It was, however, included in the Board of Regents request. So it's a two-step process. The Board of Regents prepares a budget, it goes to the executive, to the governor's budget, but it didn't make it into, but we have a statutory responsibility to tell you what the Board of Regents actually did request. So
Okay.
that's why the
did we
5
get that
million is
already?
not.
Did we get that already?
This is, I think it's 15 million, right?
Correct.
And
So
that's, the 5 million is embedded
the
in that
5 million
15
is embedded in that, in that
in
15.
this amount. Get it.
Correct.
So what is, I think I asked this, as far as the amount of increase in their athletic budget due to perhaps contract increases, salary increases for some of the coaches that probably might be asking for that, as to how is that fitting in? Because this 15 million, 5, so it practically leaves you 10 million. How is that all penciling out?
So the additional 10 million is for general operations across the department, categories such as, too close, sorry. Categories such as nutrition, recruiting, travel, and those have been articulated. But I think the goal is to be able to supplement all of the other pieces of the operations in the department that we run to support our student athletes. Those are not for salaries.
But you have a deficit already, right? So the deficit is just being put on the side, and then you're asking for this new money for current operations, but then you probably get a deficit again? Is that?
So the current deficit, at least in the last accounting, and I know there are individuals that could probably give you a little bit more detailed accounting for it. Right now, I believe that the deficit is about 180,000.
It was 162,000 last year, that's
Yeah.
right, yep.
So, and the deficit essentially is being made up with, again, with the reserves that the university does have. So I think this particular request and what was included in the Board of Regents request was to try and get, again, the athletics department onto a path of more self-sufficiency in their operations.
Want to follow up? Okay. We talked about scholarships. Is the athletic scholarships part of that scholarship report that?
Yes, it is a special talent category.
Okay, so maybe we can get a breakout on how much scholarships, athletic scholarships that we give out. And so scholarships are going to be increased because of AI, or how, what's the?
That is the
policy?
opportunity. So what we've said to our coaches is that as we raise money for NIL, you can apply that either to direct payments to the student athletes or to increase scholarships. So it's a strategic decision. Some teams have more scholarships than others, so they would like to add scholarships. Other teams have a lot of scholarships, so they would like to make the payments on top of the scholarships. So that's really a team-by-team decision, but you're allowed to do both.
So the scholarships that are allowed by the university, and if they choose, each sport chooses to give more, it has to come out of their added budget, or, I'm sorry, I'm not
So
following.
all I was saying there is if we raise these dollars for NIL, which we are raising, and we allocate them to the individual teams, then it's within the coach's discretion to decide if they want to use that NIL dollar for additional scholarships for that team or to pay the student who is already receiving a scholarship on top of it. So it could be an either-or choice.
And the NIL monies that you have raised already, those monies will go for the entire team and not necessarily a specific student. Is that correct or no?
Right, so we've been raising money this year to pay our NIL commitments for this academic fiscal year. And they could be spread out, each team kind of has their own fund, and they could be spread out across the players or the individual student athletes as the coach decides.
But the money, the 5 million is going to go specific, or that's also going to be a team?
The 5 million would be distributed to some of the teams, not all of the teams. That was
And then
kind of
the
the
teams can
breakdown we had
decide if
talked
they're
about,
going to do it individually or not.
how they would use it individually. Exactly right.
And what was that other question that I was going to ask? So the 5 million is reoccurring, and that's what you folks expect, right? For it to be reoccurring.
That's the request for now, so that we can get to a place where we've established a foundation and get to a place where we think we can be competitive. We would love to be in a place in a
Okay,
few
so
years
what-
that we didn't need that, but that's what we're
Okay, so
asking
when you
for
say
now.
get to a place, what does that place look like? You're
I,
not going to need the 5 million.
right, so our assessment is that we think we need $5 million to be competitive from an NIL standpoint today. If we can do that and continue to have success as teams, if we work on our multimedia rights, if we're able to get a stadium where we're able to enhance dollars that come to us from game day operations, all of the different ways that we can grow revenue, new media rights contracts. In an ideal world, we would love to be able to generate every one of those dollars within the athletics department. That's what we aspire to do. I can't guarantee that, but that would be the goal that we set for ourselves.
Right, but what's the reality? Because we've had a stadium, we've had the rights, we've had all of this over the years, and the department without NIL have been in a deficit continuously. So I don't see, even if we get a new stadium, I don't see very much changing. So what is the likelihood of sustainability? And if the legislature cannot sustain giving you 5 million a year, then what's the plan? I mean,
The plan is all the things I just said. We have to raise revenues through ticket sales. We have to raise it through media rights deals. We have to raise it through multimedia rights, which is our corporate sponsorships. And we have to raise it through philanthropy. So those are the
right, and that's-
avenues for us
and
to
that's all
increase.
the avenues we have had over the life of our sports program, and they've grown. And under certain coaches, we've done better.
Yep.
Under certain ADs, we've done better. So what's the, I mean, if you don't meet it based on past performance, and I've been doing this 43 years, and so I've not seen that kind of ability to be able to generate that kind of monies
I
for one
understand.
program. Because you have competing interests, competing areas of the university that is asking for funding and is raising funding on their own. You've got the community out there raising money for their nonprofits and other programs across the country, across the state. So, what's the secret sauce?
The secret sauce is we got to have, so this is where creating this foundation matters. The secret sauce in a lot of ways is having competitive teams and being at the top of the conference that we're in so that we can win championships, so that we bring more people into our arenas, so that corporate sponsors do want to invest in us. A football team that goes 9-4, like Coach Chang and his staff and our players did this year, bring attention to the product. They bring sponsors into the community who want to support it. It allows us to be at the table for media rights negotiations, which we're going into right now, that can drive more revenue for us. So we have to stay competitive for us to have the opportunity to drive more dollars into these programs, absolutely.
Well, that's been the goal, though. I mean, you've seen, we were at our height with June Jones. So, I mean, it goes, you're at your height and the players leave, and, competitive players don't stay in Hawaii. If they're born and raised here, they go to the mainland. The Marcus Mariotas are not going to stay and play here. Now you got a portal that people can go in and out. And you've got a good player or a marginal player who gets an opportunity, shows he's good, immediately the next year he's in the portal. So, I just find it very difficult to understand, or maybe I do understand it better than most, that's a cycle, right? And to maintain that cycle, we've not been able to maintain that cycle. And a lot of it is because our location in the middle of the Pacific, the fact that we don't have the kind of exposure, our athletes don't have the kind of exposure, we don't have the kind of alumni. I think we talked about this when you came to my office, that we cannot be a UCLA. We don't have the alumni, we don't have the philanthropy that some of these schools on the mainland have. And our athletes are the good ones, or the exceptional ones, don't stay here. And if they do stay, they leave.
I agree with you that maybe we can't be at the same level of some of the Power 4 institutions that are out there. But I absolutely believe with everything that is in my soul that we can be extraordinary at the level that we're at. We have amazing athletes in this state, and many of them do want to stay here. And right now, in this new environment, it is a little bit of NIL dollars, but it is also, we have a world-class institution. We have a culture that people want to be a part of. We have a community that loves these programs so intensely. A men's volleyball team played a Division II school last week, and we had 6,000 people show up there. We have better
But
attendance.
Matt, we've been doing that all these years. Come on. I mean,
and I
I was
believe
at
in
the
it.
height
I
of the
believe in it
basketball
so
five,
much.
the Fab Five.
Yes,
I've been here
and we
for,
wanna do
for
that
all
again.
of them. Right, but again, we want to do it again. I'm saying we need a sustainable program. And I'm
what we're
saying
building.
that these are the things, and they come and go with ADs, it come and goes with coaches. I'm sorry, that's the nature of it. So what is it going to take for sustainability? And if we can't raise it, then, what are we doing? Because we're in the same league, and, we've got one winning season out of how many, right? Coach Chang, 3 seasons, it took 3 seasons to get where we're at, fine. But then now that, we may get another good 3 seasons, but what's going to happen? We're going to go through the cycle again. We were at a height with June Jones, and it went down. I mean, it doesn't last.
Sports is absolutely cyclical. You're going to win sometimes, you're going to lose sometimes. But if you build the infrastructure, if you build the program beneath it, and that's where these operational dollars
Okay, so
would
you're
allow
saying
us
we've
to do
never
that.
built the
No,
foundation?
I'm just saying in general. That
Yeah.
Of course, it is always going to be cyclical, but that's what we want to do is, I believe my role as the athletics director is to come here, identify the ways that we can make this program extraordinary. We can pursue excellence in every way. People do want to stay here. They do want to be a part of this place. We lost very, very few student athletes in the transfer portal this season. And I think a huge part of that is because of the culture, because of the program that we had, because of the support we got, where we sold out the last couple of games, then we sold out the bowl game, then we win the bowl game. Student athletes wanted to stay and be a part of that. So that's where we have some momentum. We have some positive sort of, I don't know, whatever. I was going to say, whatever. We're going in the right direction, and we just got to keep building on top of that. So I think our job as athletics is to go out and generate every dollar we can, but also be very transparent with you. And that's why we explained the $10 million ask for operations and 5 for NIL upfront for 25-26, or sorry, for 26-27. This is what we think will allow us to be successful in the areas we've described. Student athlete experience, academics where we graduate, reach out to the community, build programs for our keiki, and then win a lot. That's what we got to do.
But there's competition for all those dollars right across the state.
Absolutely. I totally respect
people
that and understand that.
That can't pay their electric bills, people that can't put food on the table, and relying on the state for a lot of these funds. And so when they hear that we're giving money to athletes, doesn't sit well with some of our constituents. So
Completely respect that and
right.
understand that. And I think that's where we do have this obligation, as we've talked about before, to create economic reporting that we're working on right now to show you data that shows investment in athletics will be worth, whatever it is coming back. When we send a golf team over to Kauai for a tournament and 20 other teams show up, that's 5 nights of hotels. That's 100, right? That's 100 hotel rooms that they're using. That's food. That's parents coming to watch. Like, there is real economic impact that's generated by an athletics department, and it's our job. I know this study was done in 2015, but it's our job now to try to collect that data and show you what we think it's worth now as well. Because I totally understand your point about the importance of each dollar.
Thanks, Chair. How many current football players are you hoping to retain from the NIL funds?
Sorry, maybe ask that question again. I
Yeah,
wanna
how
make sure I'm
many
answering
current
correct.
football players are you hoping to retain and stay with the team
Yep.
with this potential $5 million NIL funds?
Oh, for next year. I mean, the way, maybe just anecdotally, I can say, is that over the course of this past end of the season, is that we looked at the roster. We wanted to retain, almost everybody. There are a few that maybe is just not the right fit or it's a good time for them to transfer. But really less than 5 chose to transfer somewhere else over NIL because they were able to get more dollars somewhere else. So that's
Sure.
a very high success rate, and we'd like to maintain that.
Sure. So we lost 5 already. So what would the remaining be that you would want to use NIL funds?
Well, the roster is 105, 85 are on scholarship, and then about half, I think, are on an NIL deal.
Okay, so
I'm not
about
100%
50?
sure about that.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, the reason that I ask is
Yeah.
because when you were talking about, the team and the program, and we're in a winning season right now, so I think right now we want to keep the momentum. However, I have a hard time believing that 50-ish players is just going to transfer in the portal in January, because if they didn't leave already, I have a hard time feeling that they're going to leave in the near future. And so maybe they're not getting offered, maybe there's not an opportunity for them. But I want to be able to realistically, if we have the talent here, and that's going to reflect next season, then we should already be winning already. I don't think an incentive to keep them here. They had the opportunity. The portal was open, right? It's closed now. And so I think that if they had the opportunity to leave, they would have left already, unless they're getting promised funds, which I don't think you guys would do something like that, right? Tell them, oh, if you stay, we're passing.
We have NIL deals with a significant number of players. That's what I was saying.
Oh, okay. How
So
much is that?
We
How much?
went through that process of they had the choice to leave or stay, and we were able to retain a significant number of those players. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank
So
you.
what was that budget? Is that the budget you just raised with your
Right, so
promises?
we set a budget, yes, we set a budget of approximately $2.5 million to try to retain that team and build that team.
Okay, so the team that is currently staying, you spent 2.5 million?
I don't know for sure that's what we spent, because we're still in that process, but that's the budget we set to
Approximately.
try to, yeah.
Okay, but you
build
didn't raise that
roster.
much yet? You intend to
Right, we're in
raise
the,
it?
that's what we're trying to do. That's where the 1.5 is us trying to get, to be able to cover that by the end of this fiscal year. That's right.
Okay, and what if you don't?
We're going to work every single second we can to
I
do
know,
that.
but what if you don't?
We had to make that choice.
No, I
Try
know,
to
but
retain
what if
these
you
players
don't,
or
you're
let them
going
go.
to renege on the players, or what
Oh,
are you
no,
going to do?
no,
Okay,
absolutely not.
so
So either
what's
the
the plan?
funds would have to come from, hopefully we have surpluses other places, or if not, then we wouldn't meet our budget goals.
And may I just add one thing, Senator Kim, in terms of structure, the foundation historically has had one person assigned to athletics. And this year we put another FTE, so we have 2, and we have plans to add a 3rd person. So the foundation, I feel, really could be doing more and should be doing more to support athletics, given the grassroots community support of our teams. So it's hard to speculate on what if, I would say, but I know that certainly the foundation will do everything it can to meet the commitments of the expectations of the community.
And you folks have tried to do that all the time, not just this year, right?
All the time, that's
Right.
correct.
And we have what we have with giving your best all of the time.
The one caveat I might offer is that was with one person. And so we found there's a correlation with if we have good people in there, and I think we do. I think we have really good people.
So by adding 2 people, how much more money do you think you'll bring in?
It's hard to pinpoint an exact figure.
Do they
but
actually raise the money, or other people raise the money?
Both. So in the Ways and Means Committee, you correctly pointed out that we can't be possessive about who raises what. It's a community effort, so we have to share credit because it's wrong to do otherwise. But yeah, we actually have to hustle a lot more than we have been.
Okay. Thank you.
What I'm hearing is build it and they will come, but how long is it going to be before that happens?
Yeah.
I mean, what have you experienced with or seen with other institutions and programs?
Yeah, it's a fair question.
Yeah, I think if we're talking about NIL, this is the first year we've been able to do this within the collegiate, within the institutional setting. So we're watching what our peers are doing. The information is not necessarily very transparent. It's very competitive, to say what you are and are not spending. But we believed, based on the data that was available to us and what we saw in terms of budgets across the Mountain West and peer and sort of peer conferences, that if we targeted a $5 million NIL total for across our teams, that would allow us to be competitive. And that's why we're being very upfront and saying that that's what our goals are. Whatever dollars we get, if it's possible to get dollars from the state, we are still going to spend every second
Correct, I
possible trying to
understand
raise
that,
those
but
dollars.
You have the amount, but you don't have a timeline, and that's what I'm asking, is there a time when other programs have had the funds to do this, and they have developed a program where they are able to attract the players?
Yeah, so that's all started since July 1st. This NIL fundraising at the institutional level has just started across the country.
Okay, but you're not answering my question. My question is, looking at other programs, how long has it taken for them to build a program where players are interested in coming and come to us? And rather than us having to do all the recruiting and they leave within 1 or 2 years.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that, so I'll have to get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Sure. If the NIL funds are going to retain the players, I mean, I don't see how that could make the players any better. I think the players are the best that it's been, and I'm not seeing this program given the funding would get any better. So I feel like the players are playing at its best, and I don't know if incentivizing them to stay is going to make them any more better than they already are. Do you disagree? Do you think giving them some funding would maybe get a better play out of them?
No, I don't think it'll make them better players.
Okay, so my point being is that we're going to be paying these players, but they're already maxed out at the best that they can be. So are we just playing them to stay, to settle for substandard?
Oh, I don't think they're substandard at all. I think they're extraordinary. I think our student athletes are amazing.
Yeah, extraordinary is a word, but I think the point that I'm trying to make is that I think we've seen the best of what this team can do. And I think that they are giving their absolute best. Now, if you were to say that with this $5 million, we would be able to recruit other exceptional players from other exceptional teams, then I think that that would merit a discussion. But right now, we're going to be paying towards a program that we already seen what they can do, right?
So it's a combination. It's recruiting and retaining. So the money is used both to retain the players on the current roster, but then we also had to go out into the transfer portal ourselves and bring students to the team to add to the team. So we did bring in new students with those dollars as well. So it's both.
Thank you for that. That makes sense. How many recruits did you bring in?
Through the transfer portal? Good question. I don't know. You're just talking about football? I don't know the exact number. It's in somewhere between 10 and 20 was added to the roster, I believe.
Okay. With that being said, it's excruciating for me to hear your folks are really struggling in fundraising. There's no doubt in my mind that it would build a great program, but I think you folks have maxed out on your fundraising efforts. And so I would hate to see you folks come back in 2027 and keep asking for more money for this.
So if I might make a plug for Matt here, I think the totals year to date right now for fundraising for athletics are 4.6. That includes the 1.6 in NIL. The total fundraising last year, of course, that did not have NIL because there was no NIL. At the end of last year, so with 5 more months to go, we have the last year total was 3.6. So we're already at 4.6. Last year, we ended at 3.5.
And we had a losing season for the past 3 years, though. Come on. This is the first year we have a winning season, so that's part of it.
It is,
I mean,
that's true.
Yeah, so
That is true.
no matter who was in the seat, we had a winning season. So that makes a lot of difference. Okay, any other questions? Okay, not, thank you. We are
Thank you very
going to
much.
keep the best for last. We are going on CIP, but before I even say that, though, I did get the out-of-state employees report. I think, members, I did send it to you folks, and I'm not going to dwell on that. I want to get a report, whether or not you reviewed the list to see about should out-of-state employees be continued, and have you folks revisit this policy and what is the results of that.
We will do that.
Yes, I know that the list has come down, but certainly would like to know what the policy might be for. And these are employees that live outside of Hawaii, but is on the payroll, just so people understand when I say out-of-state employees.
And we are working on that policy, and we'll have something for you very shortly.
Okay. Okay, CIP. Okay, you want to start? Where do you want to start? How about we start with,
An easy one. How about we ease into it?
okay, then you choose. You're in charge of your fate.
Oh, I don't know.
How
Like
about-
it's a crapshoot.
So our request, how about we start with our request? So I think the request that came in, Chair, so we are asking for approximately 130 million, I believe, in funding for our CIP request. And
Actually, the
That's
board
the gov-
approved.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you folks asked for 283.
Yes.
we asked for
million.
283.
See, I know more than you.
Well, 130 is what we ended up getting.
Right.
Yes.
Well,
after-
you don't have it yet.
Well, yes, I'm sorry, we don't have it
You
yet.
don't have it yet.
Yes.
It's in the governor's budget, doesn't mean,
It's in the governor's budget, and as we are here to plead, I mean, if you have any questions with regards to it, I mean, there are very specific things that we want to address, you know, obviously the RIM funding is very important, you know, as was indicated in the past, you know, we need 100 million just to maintain current state right now. So I think Jan can talk a little bit about more on what we're doing with the deferred maintenance program.
okay, before you even go there, that's the concern. You need to maintain that funds, yet you folks have taken that funds and used it for something other than renew and improve and modernize, right? I mean, you've taken money from there to do Ching Field, you've taken money, shortfall monies on other CIP projects and used that to backfill. So that's the concern. And we do have a bill, I have a bill that says you can't do that, that you can use our RIM money for RIM and not to do CIP projects.
Understood, and I think going
And I would
forward,
think you would
meeting with
support
that, meeting with the legislative intent in terms of what the RIM funding was for. You know, I can't speak of how the decision was made. I know that there was a need to address the issue upon the closure of Aloha Stadium and having, you know, a venue for the university to play at. But, you know, I think as we go forward, the intention really is RIM to be for RIM.
Yeah, and it's not because there's a need that you're gonna violate certain policies or certain rules like procurement and so forth. That does not give you the right to do that, just because there's a need.
Understood,
Right.
understood, and that will not happen as I am there.
You're gonna be there for a long time.
It's been 2 weeks, or 2 months.
It seems like a long time when you're having fun, right? Okay, Miss Jan, what do you wanna, where you wanna start?
Do you want to do a little bit more on Ching Field or?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we talked about reinforcing Ching Field, right?
Yes.
2.3 million. Is that what the amount was? What is it gonna, well, let me ask you, what is the cost to do the reinforcement for Ching Field?
So we annually inspect Ching Field. And right now, where we previously might have said we needed anywhere between 1 to 3 million, right now it's looking at something like closer to maybe $500,000 a year, with replacing the turf in 2028 for $2 million. But other than that, that should take us through 2029, when we are confident that Aloha Stadium will be completed and we will be having our football games there.
It's $2,028,000.
Yes.
So 2 million plus you're saying 500,000
Yeah, so
to
probably, yeah. so
3
it all-
million a year to maintain Ching Field?
So the
and
total,
reinforce?
yeah, and the total projected between now and 2029 is right around 3.6 million.
1.6, that's all?
3.6.
3.6.
Which includes replacing the turf.
Okay, that's total.
Yes,
So we gotta
total.
add a couple million then, right?
I
With your
mean,
guys' track record.
yes, okay, thank you.
That wasn't meant to be.
Okay, no.
We'll take it.
Well, yes,
So,
so this is not a negative, thank you.
have you folks looked at, and maybe the AD is gonna jump in on this, but have you folks looked at, will we be making more money with the new stadium or being at Ching Field? Because there's pluses and minuses, right?
There are pluses and minuses, and I think in terms of the way that the relationship is going to work between Aloha Stadium and the university, that will have to be determined in whatever agreement that we end up, having with the stadium going forward. Because in many ways, I would say we're a tenant, right? We're going to be a tenant of it, and we're going to be bringing in, our games, and we're going to be making any revenue. So we have to have that negotiation with Aloha
Because
Stadium.
you have to pay them something.
We'll have to
right?
pay them
Right.
some portion, correct?
So you haven't looked at
We
what
are
that-
not at the state where we're negotiating what that future arrangement is gonna be between.
Why not?
I think they're still trying to figure out the NASCAR.
Yeah. Who the point person is?
So the broad concepts have been discussed previously before I got here and with other folks. We are talking now with the Stadium Authority about what a framework would look like going forward in terms of negotiating the specific details. That would really be once the stadium operator and the developer are fully prepared to do that. And based on the fact that they're still just, designing the stadium, figuring out what the final product is going to look like, we can talk about the concepts of parking, concessions, ticket sales, suites, all those things, but the details are premature.
Okay, moving on. So I'll give you another easy one. So the Cancer Center construction, the phase, the new
Yes.
portion of it. So what's the status of that?
It is complete.
Okay, what's complete?
The completion of the Ho'okala, I think is what it's called, but the early clinical
Okay, what is it being used?
phase, first and second floor.
And what is it? Is it fully housed, fully used? Mr. Provost?
So the first floor and quarter, I think, of the second floor are complete. And there will be an opening for the physical facility sometime in April. That doesn't automatically imply that the facility will be open for operations. We need to talk to our health partners to understand, and to our cancer center faculty and clinicians to understand what will be operational and when, because there's a pharmacy. It is a medical facility, so we need to make sure that it is done properly and all compliance
Weren't
is.
there supposed to be possibly queens were going to be some of the space or so forth? Was it this floors or the other floors? I can't.
There is some conversation on Queens leasing the third and the fourth floor on that facility. There has been a list that is negotiated. I'm not part of these negotiations, but there has been no final decision from either Queens or UH whether this will happen.
So the use of the first floor and part of the second floor right now is up in the air. So,
It is, we need to
So it's
make
gonna be
sure
vacant.
that, before, this is a clinical medical.
was supposed to be for the early clinical trial.
This is supposed to be for the early phase clinical trials. However, we would like to see also a little bit more traffic in the facilities. So that's why we're talking to our health partners to see maybe we can have phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials there. So, and that's why it becomes more
I know,
critical that
but
we
this is
have.
troubling. We've been asking this for 5 years as to this facility, who's going to use it, what the cash flow is going to be. And yet here it is completed and we don't even know who's going to be.
And we know who's going to be. We got to make sure that it is done correctly, right? These are highly complex operations within the medical school and the cancer center.
So it just overnight it became complex?
No, it's actually, we knew it's going to be accomplished for a long
and
time, right?
So, yeah, I would imagine that you've had a lot of time to work on it.
Yeah, and we've been doing that, and we're getting there.
Okay, can we get a report in writing?
We'll give you a report, right? Thank you, Senator.
Okay, how about, since you've been fast at the draw, I'm gonna just jump in.
Yes, please.
Early childcare center was supposed to move into the new Haukane, right? But they're not there, right? They haven't been moved, right?
That's my understanding.
Yes, they haven't been moved. The facility and the space for the early childcare center is available. Right now, it's just awaiting, it has to go through its licensing process. And I'm sorry, I do have with me Mike Shibata, who is our Director of Office of Strategic Planning and Development, that has been working on that particular issue. But right now, we are essentially just waiting for it to be licensed so that it can go in. And the licensing process is with the Department of Human Services.
So why has it taken so long for the license? The building opened in August, correct? And now it's going on to February. So what's the problem? I know what the problem is, but I want to know what you're going to tell me is the problem.
So we're working with Department of Planning and Permitting. So for the certificate of occupancy for the childcare space, they've requested for some additional improvements be made. We were down to one final improvement, which is to the doors for the building. So once that fix is made, we're waiting for the part to arrive on island. Then we can complete the final inspection for the building inspector for DPP. And then from there, the DPP inspector will issue a report to DHS, and that will start the licensing window with them.
And how long is that going to take?
It's the total licensing period is 3 months with DHS. We're hoping for an expedited quicker review, but that is the licensing window, 3 months.
Okay, now did you guys anticipate this?
We were hoping for a quicker review and licensing review. So we've been having to work with DPP on the fixes or the.
So when did you start hoping?
Well, when we opened the building for occupants to move in August, we were hoping to get that process going sooner. But we've been working through.
So did you only decide to move this facility in August? When was the decision made to move this facility into this building when it was occupied or complete?
I think it was always part of the build out of Haukane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you knew years in advance.
Yes.
That you were going to move it.
Yes.
So I don't understand how, as Devil and Prada puts it, why is no one ready? I mean, why are we not ready for these things, knowing in advance that you need to get the licensing? Isn't it also the situation where you folks don't have enough room for the play area?
I think first things first, when we received certificate of occupancy for the entire building, that came in August. And so we were hoping that the licensing window could follow that. There was additional reviews specific for the childcare space
Right.
that we had to go through. And so we're still going through that with the city. And so I think we're almost done. And then I think from there, then we can begin the licensing window. As it relates to the outdoor play area, we do have space required, both on-site and off-site, for the licensing.
So they approved it? Because my understanding, that was one of the sticking points.
We meet the requirements for the licensure.
Yes, but we still need to go through that process. Yes.
So you had to wait until what to start the licensing?
We need the certificate of occupancy, the CO, what we call the CO,
Before you can go into licensing?
that's been approved by the DPP and building inspector for us to start the licensing window. So that report, and it's a specific report from an inspector that specializes in childcare spaces that goes to the licensing review.
Okay, so what is your new timeline that you're going to be completely moved in and open?
Well, we're hoping that the licensing window can start once the doors are fixed. So I think we're hoping for that can be fixed within the next 2 weeks.
So a door is keeping you guys from.
Yes,
A
unfortunately.
one door.
Yes.
Yeah.
How is that possible, one door? Who's the engineer and who's the architect? I mean,
Well, well, the doors are there. I think what they're asking for is for a fix to one of the doors and how it's opened. That's what it's coming down to. The new timeline for, once we get through that, the licensing is May of
I'm
2026.
just trying to get my arms around the fact that this whole thing is held up because a door that should have been part of the whole planning process and engineering and whatever it is that developers have to go through to make sure that all of these things are done according to spec. So how did this door not get to spec or whatever it is?
Well, it was designed and constructed to spec. I think this is a interpretation of code, interpretation of how the building codes are applied. And so you have, the designer who interpreted the code a certain way, and then you have the DPP, building inspector who's evaluating that based off the childcare use and is saying, I would like this change, these doors to be fixed.
And when did you find out that the door needed to be fixed?
About, let's say give or take about a month ago.
So a month ago, and it's taking this long to get it fixed.
Well, they've actually been on site. They thought they had the fix in mind, and then when they evaluated the door, they determined that the part wasn't the right part, and now they have to order the part from the mainland, and it has to be put on island. Yes.
If this is private sector, people's jobs, people would get fired. This kind of stuff. I mean, it's just crazy, right? And only in government, this kind of happens.
I understand, but we're pushing and trying to expedite this as quickly as possible.
And the reason I need to say this, that I get frustrated is because I've seen this, heard this happen time and time again. Somehow we don't get it. We make the same mistakes over and over again. We make the same, we don't plan ahead, we don't check twice, we don't, check measure 3 times before you cut, stuff like that, right?
I believe that there can be better coordination, absolutely. I think as you go through permitting processes as well as certificate of occupancy processes, having that understanding, okay, what really is, required in the
that's why we
code
pay for
issues.
these, that's why you guys
Yeah.
don't engineer it, you guys pay an engineering company to do it, right? And then you pay for a consultant to oversee the engineering, and then you use your own licensed engineers to oversee the consultant that overseeing the construction to be done, right? So I mean, how many, you see what I'm saying? It's like,
I
it's
understand what
crazy
you're
on-
saying, yes.
And yet, somehow somebody along the way, it gets missed. So what are we paying for,
I completely understand your frustration in this particular case.
Okay, but it's not just in this case, see, that's why.
Like,
If
yes,
this was the first time, then yeah, but it's not, right? Right. So
For
I'm
me,
just saying that,
yes.
I hope that, I shouldn't say I hope, we should expect to have better planning, better projection. I mean, and we're paying these people millions of dollars.
Understood.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm just getting started. Okay. So the LG gave $50 million, right, for the childcare.
The School Facilities Authority, SFA,
Yes.
gave $10 million.
10 million, not
10 million.
15 million, $10 million. And that $10 million is to move the facility, to run the facility?
To build and construct the facility, the new childcare facility.
And you guys wouldn't have built it otherwise?
Well, it it helped the project because, the other alternative was the developer Greystar and CHF Manoa would have built the childcare space, but then they would have likely requested the university to pay rent to lease out the space.
Okay, in addition to that, UH supplemented this P3 project at a tune of $60 million, $2 million yearly for 30 years to keep the low rent.
It
To
is,
keep the rent low.
it was a process to provide for rent abatement to keep the rents at a rate that would be affordable to the residents of the facility.
But in the meantime, Noelani has sat empty for 8 years.
That is an issue that we definitely need to
So
resolve.
would the 60
into
million
next-
have helped us do something about Hale Noelani?
The 60, well, Hale Noelani, at this point in time, the discussion is it needs to be basically redone.
Understand, but
Yeah.
wouldn't have $60 million help to do that?
I don't know, in terms of
So
60.
how much money have we asked for Hale Noelani? How much money did we ask for student housing? Just top of your head, how much money we asked? 130, so it would have had minus 60 million, right? So it would have made a huge difference, right?
It would have made would it complete? Yes,
No, but
I would
we-
think, yeah.
I mean,
There would be significant improvements to Hale Noelani.
okay, so we chose to supplement rents in lieu of other priorities. And now Hale, what's your occupancy rate?
The occupancy for Haleakala is about 78%.
Okay, so we're at 78%. I was told 70%, 78%. I mean, so it's just trying to see where are the priorities? Because we're going to come to McCarthy Mall next as to what our priorities are.
And I think in terms of, in terms of the product that's being provided, Hale Haukane versus Hale Noelani, or even some of the other dormitories that exist within the existing student housing inventory, it does provide it's a different product, right? Hale Haukane.
Yes, but if you know the history of this, as the NOAA building, if you know the history of it sitting vacant, you know the history that, it's costing us more because of whatever it is the UH did, and that you had to go in there because of the cost going up to not put in the 60 million. So it's not just the 60 million. There's a whole history on how we arrived here. And in the meantime, while all of this was going on, Noelani was sitting there. Hale Noelani was sitting there.
Yes, I think that was made abundantly clear in terms of the fact that Hale Noelani wasn't occupied for a long period of time.
Right,
Correct.
and I guess I'm looking at, the big picture, whose job is it to oversee the overall picture as to where the priorities are? Like, do we do McCarthy Mall or do we do Hale Noelani? Do we do Hale Kauhane and give $60 million? Or do we, who's weighing all of that so that we come to?
I think it's the prerogative of the leadership within the UH system in order to make those decisions in terms of what the priority is, and obviously in conversation in terms of what legislative intent, especially for appropriated dollars, Chair. So I think it falls upon the UH leadership, but also working with the legislature
Right.
too as
But
well.
there's a disconnect with the Board of Regents as well. Because the Board of Regents approved some of this.
And I'm sorry, I did not mean to leave out the Board of Regents, but it's also, the UH leadership in conjunction with the Board of Regents, kind of coming up and looking at that strategic priority in terms of how we
But if
deploy
the Board
money.
of Regents have asked these questions that we've asked at the time, we could have had a different result.
And, I think that's part of the process, at least what I'm learning in terms of when we present to the Board of Regents, especially the long-term capital improvement plan going forward. And it's something that I'm definitely hearing from you in terms of how do we prioritize and how do we engage and communicate with the Board of Regents. It's like, okay, these are our needs right now. Do you agree with them? Do you believe that we're going in the right direction? These are the concerns that we've heard from the legislature, from the executive, you name it. and then kind of bringing them all together so that, so that we're all,
Right.
everybody knows what we're going
But
into.
they should know where we're at. If they come to our meetings or watch us on video, on TV, or, even paid attention, then the Board of Regents should know what the concerns are. Hopefully, you're hearing the concerns, and these are concerns we've been raising over the last administration. But it seems as though it falls on deaf ears, and we're in this situation. And, and if everything went well, and you guys were on time, on budget, all of this, then we couldn't say anything. But the fact that you're not, and the fact that you've had Ali Noelani sitting there for 8 years, and the president coming up and said he didn't know about it. And then we find out that he did know about it because they had permits, and they had plans, and they nixed it. So those kinds of things does not sit well with us.
Understood.
Right?
And I can say from my perspective, our intention really is to change the narrative around that.
I hope so. I really hope so, with the new president, new leadership. But some of the things that I'm seeing and hearing worries me, like more higher bureaucracy, things like that. But, so I'm trying to bring it up so you folks understand the concerns
Got
and
it.
hopefully don't go down that road.
Okay.
Yeah, because I do want this administration to succeed.
Thank you.
And I do want to see, meaningful changes. It doesn't happen overnight, I know that. But we need to be moving in that direction. We seem to be moving in that direction, and I hope we continue to move in that direction.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and you have our commitment to work together.
Okay, so, is the occupancy rate of RISE about the same, 70% to 78%?
Yes.
It's at 70% right now.
It's at 70, and you folks are at 70.
It's a little bit lower, it's
65%. Why, do we know why?
There is a number of reasons. I think, in part it was due to the just staffing turnover with the property management team, and so there were some headwinds that we faced. However, we did replace the property manager who started in November, and so we believe that was one of the reasons that led to the lower occupancy.
But we've raised these concerns when you folks were first leasing the building and then building the building, right? We've
Yes,
raised
that's
that. I've raised that. You had a board chair that raised it, and it fell on deaf ears.
So the first 2 years of the operation, we met all of the financial objectives and the metrics that were set aside. We're in our third year of operations, and yes, we did run into some challenges, but we're addressing that right now.
Okay, yeah, the prediction was it's gonna be a white elephant, so I hope that doesn't come to fruition, but given the track record, I don't know. Okay, thank you. Next. I don't know what to take next. Okay, why don't we go to Sinclair?
Okay.
So Higher Education Committee visited Sinclair last year. Okay, remember, we went to Sinclair?
Yes.
It appeared close to being completed.
Yes.
To be open on August 2025.
Yes.
Is it open?
No, it is not. And
You know I know that answer, right?
yes, I know. Yes, and anybody that drives up and down University Ave.
I mean, what happened? Why? Again, the track record is just, it's crazy.
So, yes, I would say definitely not proud of the fact that it's not open. Probably two major reasons is Swinnerton is the contractor that was also building Hale Haukani. And the Sinclair project experienced a staffing shortage, primarily so that Swinnerton could redirect its resources to get Hale Haukani built. That's one. But also, I will say, we've instituted some quality control measures that we are holding our contractor to. And so if they don't pass, we do make them redo it. And it's between those two building envelope quality issues as well as staffing issues. That's where we are today. But I'm hopeful that this is the year 2026.
Year
And I
of-
don't know, yeah, if I gotta come before you next year and it's still not open, I don't know.
What you mean you don't know?
What I would do.
So we heard earlier about a door, about not having planning, is holding up that. We hear staffing shortage, and we hear for the same things from you. So you see the trend? And this is not anything new, because this go way back to some of the other projects that I'm not
Yes.
gonna bring up at this point. So the delay now is what, 18 to 24 months delay?
Yeah, probably close to that.
18 to 20 months delay? What's the cost for something like that?
Well, we do have liquidated damages provisions, if that's what I think, is that what you're getting at, or I mean, you know, it was a library before, and it's definitely serving a different use now.
But you
so-
knew that when you started, you
Yeah.
knew that when you went out to bid, so that's not an excuse.
Yeah.
So what is the overruns? How much is the overruns?
Oh.
I mean, okay, we gave you folks, how much money did we give you folks for Sinclair?
You know,
54 million,
okay,
right? Or it's
Yes.
41 million? No, we gave you 41 million.
40 million, 40, it was
We
40.
gave you 40 million,
Yeah.
that's, okay. So 40 million.
Yeah.
And so how much is the actual total cost of this project going to be at the
I
end
want
of
to
the?
say, and I apologize, I don't have that particular detail
Come on,
in
Jen.
front. I know, I did not.
You were gonna go
Let's
CIP.
see, let's see, wait.
I'm not gonna have any more athletic questions, so if you gotta go recruit and raise money, you can go.
60, yeah.
We wanna see the money coming in, so you can go. Perfect. You can, next time you can ask if you can be heard. Which we try to accommodate.
62.7 million.
62.7 million is the total cost.
Yeah.
For the project.
Yes.
So we gave you 40 million, so you have 22.7 million overrun?
Well, we signed a contract for more than 40. We signed the original contract amount was 56 million, 56.
Well, what that have to do with anything? The fact
Well,
that we
so
gave
the
you, well, the
difference
fact we
was
gave
that-
you 40 million.
Yeah.
Oh, so you anticipated 56? And it went over?
Well, it got-
Well,
Yeah. The
40
lowest-
million
the-
wasn't enough,
Yeah,
I
40,
guess.
yes. 40 million wasn't enough.
And so where did that extra money come from? paid for
Likely a combination of RIM and tuition and fees.
There we go, really. So the 16 million over what we gave you, and you went ahead and done it. And then over that now, you have another 6 million, $7 million
In change orders.
that you have to do. And that's change orders? So how many
Yeah.
change orders? Thank you for raising that. How many
Okay.
change orders? I had it down, though, I would have been.
I don't have the total number of change orders.
Okay, so as of a letter from David Lasner dated July 26, 2024, change orders of that, as of that date, numbered 19, for a total of $802,000 and change. So that was as of 2024. We're in 2026, 2 years later. How many change orders additional were there?
I can get back to you on that. I don't have
Okay,
that detail.
and tell us what those
Apologize.
change orders were for.
Yes, we will give you a detailed breakdown.
Okay, so again, and you have no date of completion that you can give us?
December of this year, 2026
Okay, you guys all heard that, right?
Yes, I know, see.
Did you tattoo that inside of your
I will. I've got my tattoo gun in the office.
Okay. My team.
Okay, any other questions on Sinclair before we move on? So do we have to go visit it again because it changed since what we saw the last time?
Not been a lot of changes.
Okay, how about Snyder Hall?
Okay.
How much did the legislature give you for Snyder Hall?
70,
70, I thought it was like 48.
35 and 35, I think.
70.
Okay, that, yeah.
Wow, very generous. Okay, and what's the new cost for Snyder?
So we, well, we combined two projects where there was our McCarthy Mall, what we've been calling it the McCarthy Mall Revitalization Project.
Okay, before
we
you talk
added.
about adding in McCarthy
Yeah.
Hall, when you came before us and we gave you 70 million.
Yes.
What was that 70 million supposed to be for?
The Snyder replacement building,
Snyder replacement.
yes.
Okay, and did that cost go up by itself?
Yes,
What did it go up to?
it went up by an additional 17.7 million. Which was effectively, what happened was when we bid it out, the, you know, 68.9 was what the bid, starting bid came in at.
Okay, and we had given you 70, so you
Yeah.
had enough.
And that built 4 stories. It built 4 stories. There was, the original desire was for it to be 5 stories. That was the original scope.
Okay.
Given what 70 could only afford us 4 stories.
Okay,
So we used tuition funding to add another 17.7 to add a 5th floor, which we had to make the go, no-go decision at the time that we awarded. The 5th floor was a line item, an additive that we could add if that was the desire, because we had to make the call at the time, because either that elevator is gonna go 4 stories or 5 stories. So that was the,
so it was supposed to be $87.7 million to get a 5-story building.
that's what it ended up costing us.
Exactly that much.
Yeah.
But then you folks,
About,
then you somehow got the sense that you needed to do McCarthy Mall.
so McCarthy Mall is widely known, I would say, as it's been widely known, the beautification type of a project. But it really is, it's at its core, it's a drainage upgrade project. And the entire campus drainage system, which is mostly within the McCarthy Mall area, it's all subsurface.
So what was the cost for this? Okay, so is McCarthy Mall a building or is just the mall?
It's a drainage, it's a sewer, it's a drainage upgrade project,
So no building?
no building. We needed to upsize our capacity to withstand a once-in-a-10-year storm.
And the cost for that was?
16.6 million.
Okay, and it included Paradise Palms?
Yes.
So could you not have done the drainage, just the drainage without doing the entire?
Yes, we could have.
And what cost would that have been?
Oh, I don't have it broken down in those two.
So why didn't we just do the drainage?
I mean, that was an option. The Paradise Palms area, if you're kind of familiar with it, there's a big open seating area associated. It's not covered. So not a lot of people use it. You're either sitting in the sun or the rain, or it's dark. There's no lights because it was just open. And so we did see it as a highly underutilized area. So the desire was to make improvements to that space so that students could actually use that space for outdoor seating, for studying, for gathering, because that's, in its current state, it did not attract that type of body heat, as we would call it. So it was highly underutilized. So because we were kind of already ripping up the mall right in front of it, that was the time to do the upgrade.
So what's the total cost of this project?
So the McCarthy Mall was 16.6, which includes Paradise Palms, which comes out to a total of just under 105 million.
So it was 87.7 plus 16,
Correct.
no cost overruns?
Not
No
yet,
change
not
orders?
just yet. I
Not
think we
just
have,
yet.
I think we might have had one small one.
And when is this supposed to be complete?
In 2 years, so 27.
When did you start?
27. Summer of 25.
And is it on a schedule or you're
Right now, it's still on schedule.
just like Sinclair, right?
Oh, no, I hope it's not just like Sinclair, but yes, right, it's starting off that way, but hopefully it
Okay, so
doesn't
what
end that
was
way.
the projected date of completion for Snyder Hall, McCarthy Mall?
Expected completion date is, sorry. Summer of 2027.
Okay, so literally you have a year and a half
Yep,
to meet that date.
yes.
Don't sound so enthusiastic about
Well,
it.
I already know, I didn't eat my words, yes.
Well, that's not encouraging. Oh, my God. Again, why is no one ready? Members, I don't hear you guys with. So, okay. I know this is Senator Hashimoto's question, but his question about the means of financing from revenue bonds to go bonds for
Oh, okay,
for the housing
yes,
situation.
yeah.
And also, is student housing going to be run by system or by Manoa? And what's the long-term plan?
Oh, okay. I don't know what the long-term plan is, maybe. I think that's still being sorted out. I don't feel I'm in a position to, I think it's unknown right now.
For this, who is going to be managing student housing?
Yeah, is it going to be a system, fall under system, or is it going to fall under Manoa? Or I don't know.
It'll be Vasilis.
So the decision has not been made at this time. There is a recommendation from the Board of Regents to look into 3 areas that may go from system down to Manoa. One of them is student housing, the other one is facilities, and the third one is auxiliary services. So that discussion is starting, but a decision hasn't been made yet. So that's where we are with that.
When is the decision going to be made?
We hope to have a decision I would hope by the end of this academic year, by June. And then we need to execute how this is gonna run, because it also will affect the recruitment of who's gonna be the next chancellor, right? We need to have an idea of how to position the assets of the campus.
So where would student housing fall in the overall priorities of the university?
I think probably one of the highest priorities of the university.
Okay, when you say one of the highest, how come some of these other ones have leapfrog?
Okay, I was not here when these decisions were made. Also, student housing, sometimes the method of financing is through the rents that the students do pay. Those rents have been stagnant for quite a while. So the reserve accounts, in order to upkeep those facilities, were not kept up in healthy balances, and therefore the student housing fell in some type of disrepair. And then at that point, VP Gouveia jumped in to see what they can do, and then they would use resources from the main campus to try to bring the.
So if the occupancy rate for Haleʻiakaʻanani and occupancy of Rise is where it's at, and continue to stay where it's at, and if we have more students online, less people coming onto the campus, if enrollment goes down, are we going to need more student housing to be built?
I think we're going to need more student housing, or at least maintain the existing inventory we have. At Manoa, though we have online students, 92% of them are on campus. Out of the 100% of students at Manoa, 48 are 100%,
Yeah,
in
that's today,
person.
though, but I'm hoping you folks are projecting into the future, because we build, pharmacy school, we build housing, and then yet we cannot fill it because, or it doesn't come to pass because our projections are off.
I don't want to talk about other campuses. I'll talk for Manoa, and you and I, we were up in DC at NCSL. And as you saw, a lot of the community colleges, even in other states, they have the same issues that we do have. They have a lot of an online population, and each state is struggling of what they're going to do with the infrastructure they have put on these places or on these spaces. However, you also heard that the flagship institutions do not have the same issue, because the students come there not just for an education, but a whole experience, which actually attracts them to be on campus.
I don't expect that answers to come today or tomorrow, but I'm hoping that you folks are looking at this and that you're going to be able to share what the plans or thoughts are as to going forward, right? Because as we look at, do we invest in redoing Haleʻiakaʻanani, or do we upgrade the current dorm situation there? Do we look at opening up Haleʻiakaʻanani to more undergraduate? I mean, looking at what you already have and how do you utilize it? So I'm just saying that these are things that you folks need to look at and analyze to the best of your abilities to project to where we're going, because we don't do a very good job at projecting correctly, or even looking at it until we're faced with it and it's too late.
Our record speaks for itself.
Thank you for not arguing that point. Okay. Okay, anything else? Okay, I have a couple more things, Jan. College of Ed.
Yes.
What's the long-term plans for College of Education space, including the lab school? Are the regions involved? When will decisions be made?
So the decision around what's going to happen once the College of Ed moves from the existing area to Snyder has not been
Okay, they can't move to
determined yet.
Snyder till Snyder Paul.
Yeah, so that's, once that happens, that will be, that is a discussion and a process that we need to engage with the regions in terms of what we're going to do with the
But
existing asset.
in the meantime, you can look at what
Oh,
you're gonna do.
and we are. And so we have gone through a process of determining what would be the best use of that particular
Well, one
lot.
of the proposals came out is to make it into some kind of entertainment retail facility, which I think the community is not behind.
And I think at this point in time, we're doing a feasibility study right now, and we're listening to the community, we're working with the lab school, and we're basically trying to understand what does that community want for that particular, because it's actually quite a big lot. I mean, I don't think you're gonna find open lots like that in the urban core. I mean, it's a significant asset. And so I think the determination on what that's going to look like going forward, is it retail, is it residential? I mean, these are part of the feasibility study that's going on right now,
And when is that study going to be done?
and by the end of the year.
Okay, the last thing that I have, I think, Jan, that ends your
Yes, time on the hot seat. Yes, good, let's do it.
It's travel.
Okay.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere, right? So according to what we receive on the travel,
So is this the one that was included in the table, from WAM or the additional? You're looking at the WAM
probably the WAM tables and both.
Oh,
So there seems to be several individuals that have really high travel expenses.
Correct.
What is the administration doing to, okay, before I go there, Jan, we had a call about the Dukanamoko Aquatic Center. Is that falls under you or does that fall under athletics?
I think it's a combination. I mean, in terms of
They're concerned about the management of the pool, no website, so students aren't given notice that the pool is shut down. Only learn about it when they actually go to the center and see a sign. So can you
Yeah.
look at that? Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, so what's the university doing as far as trying to keep a lid on some of the travel that's
So
going
we
on?
have, as it came up during the process, and yes, we recognize that there are certain individuals that do have, the total value of the travel as well as the number of travel being pretty high. So we are instituting a policy right now that to determine a threshold, once that individual hits that threshold, that additional approvals as well as
What's that
review.
threshold might be?
$12,000.
$12,000.
Correct.
And how many trips? Because we have an individual here that did 61 trips. Right? 61 trips.
Correct. And if I'm not mistaken,
32,000.
that one particular individual who resides on a neighbor island goes back and forth from the neighbor island to Oahu quite often. So these are the things that we need to take a look
But that's still
at.
quite a bit.
It is
And then
quite a
another
bit.
40 trips, so $43,000?
Yes, so that's why we are now instituting that threshold policy.
But just for EMs.
Just for EMs, correct.
Okay, well, the Senate will be entertaining a bill to put a moratorium on trips for 2 years with some exceptions.
Okay.
So I hope you folks will look at it and embrace it because it's not just the University of Hawaii, but across the board.
We will take a look at the bill.
There are certain trips that are required, certain trips are mandatory because of the nature of whatever area that you might be in charge of. There are probably areas in which by law you're required to fulfill certain obligations, and those are probably going to all be exempt.
Sure.
But there are many conferences where, and it's not just again UH, we're seeing at DOE and others, where you're seeing 10, 15, 20 people at one time going to the same trip, or going to similar conference and so forth. And, what is our return on investment? What is it we're actually instituting after these trips? And so,
We'll absolutely take a look at it and completely understand, given the fiscal situation that the state has in terms of what we need to take a look at, how we are expending it.
where does this trip monies come from?
Could be a variety of sources. It could be budgeted general funds for trips. It could be tuition and fee special fund. It could be from extramural funding too as well. It all depends on who the individual that's traveling and what they are traveling for would be where that particular expense would be charged to.
Okay, I hope you can take a look at this and come back and report to us as to how the university feels that they can manage these trips, because certainly I don't want to have to continue a moratorium. You folks are adults, you should be able to manage some of these things. right?
Understood.
And it should be the Board of Regents and not us that doing this, but at the point when we feel it's out of control, then we step in.
And I think also that the questionnaire, when they fill out for trip, should be whether or not that the conference that they're going on offers on web,
Virtual.
online.
Yeah, yeah.
We can include that in our
Because they can
reviews.
sit at their computer at school or home or wherever
Understood.
and participate
Sure.
online, yeah.
Because you can justify any trip, right? I mean, if you want to,
Sure.
you can certainly justify these trips. I know we go on many trips, but our trips are usually paid for by the entity that is hosting us. So we don't, they pay our airfare, they pay for our room and board, and they pay for meals. So we don't spend, you might see, oh, a trip, we don't spend state monies, and it's in a form of scholarships that we have to report as gifts at the end of the year. And so, if somebody's not paying, then I don't go. Because I don't want to spend the state's money on trips and then be criticized for that. But I think that these are the concerns that we share, especially in a tight budget year. But even so, we should all be accountable. And there are some individuals that are constantly gone. And when they're gone, it's not just the cost of it, but they're not there, they're not available. They're in certain positions, high positions, that they should be there overseeing the programs, right?
And to your point, so we will definitely take a look. And again, we are instituting the policy to kick up a higher degree of review upon a threshold, but
Appreciate
duly
that.
noted.
Yeah, so can you guys report back to us?
We will.
Okay, with that, at 4:39, we are